Hello, 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 everybody. Yes, I'm finally here doing it. I'm new. I'm IG. Um, I'm fun. This is my first live stream on YouTube. I'm just here now. Like, okay, about to do this review from Jubilee's channel. It's a conversation about conservative men versus trans men. What people would call cisgender. I know some people don't like that term, but I'm gonna say biologically born males, conservative biological born males versus trans men. So what I'm going to do before I get started, I'm gonna talk a little bit and just you know shout out to all of the other wonderful YouTubers on the platform. I've been on countless panels. The Hood Table, shout out to y'all. Shout out to Reckless Logic on YouTube. Shout out to Conscious TV on YouTube. Shout out to Storm Monroe's platform. I've been able to have great conversations and have been encouraged by most of them to go for it and start a panel and stuff like this. I'm gonna work towards getting a laptop and so that way I can share the screen and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm just gonna be playing audio for you guys and kind of pausing and giving my thoughts as we react to this video. I've also posted the video link in the description box as well. So hey, hello, hi Carly, hi. So I'm going to what I'm going to do is eventually drop the link down after I review the video some. So I'm just looking forward to this, and I guess there's nothing to do for right now but to just jump right into it. You heard me? So here we go. I'm going to read the disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use. For purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, education, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, so what I'm going to do, y'all, is review. I think I'm gonna go with the video of the, like I was saying, with the conservative men versus the trans men, because this conversation of patriarchy and toxic masculinity has been coming up a lot in YouTube streets, right? So I'm just going to start the video. Let's see right here.
You mean it's not healthy to want to talk to your
Oh,
boyfriend
this is an
every
ad,
other
y'all.
single
Hold
day?
on.
Yeah, that's called codependency,
Let
and
me
it
see
sounds like
here.
Opposing beliefs together.
And this is
Middle
what they
ground
say
is a
here.
social experiment that brings humans with opposing beliefs together. These discussions may contain viewpoints that are the result of misinformation. Remember to seek out experts and to be critical of your own biases while forming an opinion. Please see the humanity in each participant, and as always, we encourage empathy.
So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today.
But do you see the state of our world today? It's not perfect, and it's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Masculinity is disappearing in America.
I think that masculinity is disappearing. I think that it's a concerted effort to emasculate men. I think that some people feel threatened by masculinity and the typical way that men carry themselves.
This is Brandon speaking, Black American conservative, what people call in the LGBT community cisgendered man, biologically born male.
Leading families and different things like that. So I think that there's an effort to mitigate strong men in America.
There's a few different ways to think about masculinity, but just looking.
This is Max. This is a white American male. I don't know his national origin. He appears he could be a little Irish with the red hair. But he's Max, conservative, um, male-born man.
Kind of the definition of the term 50 years ago, you had people like John Wayne, you had Martin Luther King, you had Sean Connery. You think of like masculine features as in beards, hairy chest, big muscles, being stoic, being brave, being rugged, being a provider. Today you have people like Harry Styles and Timothy Chalamet. You have people that are completely contrary to what we were looking at back then, and those values of those masculine characteristics are completely devalued.
I do believe that masculinity is going down.
This is Gilbert. Now I don't know which country he hails for, Hispanic or Latino. He does say that. I can't tell you if he's from the Caribbean or Mexico or Central American. But this is Gilbert, conservative man.
Especially if you look at like the testosterone levels. Now the testosterone levels for guys is going down compared to generations before us. So yeah, I agree. Hi, I'm Gilbert. I'm 24 years old and I'm a conservative man. With my beliefs and having a trans man as my friend, we don't really talk about politics. Someone being trans doesn't make me like them any less of a person. As far as pronouns, when referring to my friend, I don't really use the pronouns that my friend would want. I just say my friend or I say their name, just because I feel like I'm giving into the narrative that men can be women and women can be men if I use the pronouns that they want.
Now, I do have an opinion about that, and I do often wonder about that. I said, well, okay, that would be a fair compromise, I would say, if you're calling the person the name that they're asked to be called. Like if it's a trans man or trans woman, okay, if you see that they tell you, okay, my name might have been Catherine, but now my name is Carl. So I would say, as long as you're going to acknowledge, even if you don't want to say the pronoun, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to not say the gender identifying pronoun and say their name, then I can see where that can be a compromise, because the persons who have their ideals and beliefs in that sense still get some sense of, I guess, a balance there. So, you know what I'm saying? But would I say, if they refuse to call this person by their pronoun and continue to use the name that's not the gender that their expression, then I would say, see, there's a bit of an issue there, especially for people that are trans. I'm going to continue the video. So let me see here. All right, y'all, we getting through it. Let's see here.
I do see that masculinity is under attack completely, but my definition of masculinity, like you said, has a lot to do with the traits that are associated with it.
Now, this guy's name is Clarkson. He is a white American male. I don't know his national origin, but let's listen.
As a gay man, I mean, of all of us, I mean, I'm not the most.
So he is a gay man. Okay.
Masculine man, but I do think that the good aspects of masculinity are definitely under attack, but I don't think that it's disappearing. It's just being channeled in different ways.
It depends on how you look at it, because a lot of the traits can also be embodied in women and femininity. So when we look at masculinity, I think that we have to also look at what is the actual definition of femininity and masculinity.
Lucky.
And if we're defining
Lucky, a Black American trans man,
masculinity by being stoic or muscles or body parts, then is it really masculinity?
A lot of times when you guys talk about masculinity, you associate it with men being manly, but I think
Jacob, trans man,
more
Hispanic Latino, don't know his national origin.
Women are embracing their masculinity. Masculinity is still there. I mean, just other genders are using it. Being courageous, being powerful, more women are standing in their power, which is again associated with masculine, but it's not specific to just men. Women are no longer submissive, they're dominant. Women don't need men, and I think that most of America is realizing that anyone can be powerful on their own.
I believe that the masculine traits are inherently in men, and men have to take a position. You made a really good point by saying women are now becoming more masculine. They feel as if they don't need men, which I think is the problem here. I think that the way we've been designed by God, in my opinion, is that men are to lead, men are to be strong, men are to be brave. Men have to take their rightful position. The way our country has been structured to this point have been because of strong men who have taken a stand, who have fought wars. Now I feel like it's getting so lopsided that our families are degrading. People don't know where they're at in this country.
Now in 2020.
Now that is a really interesting point that that the black heterosexual man Brandon is making here, that he sees as if men have been taking the role as rightfully. Now I'm gonna say something else to that. Now obviously this person is a Hebraic monotheistic believing person that has the ideal of that type of hypergamy, that men, because they are able to forcefully rule in the humanoid species, not anywhere else, just with humanoids, that this is where, and they have a right, and because their deity, their ideal of the creator also does speak of war and have those type of instances and conversations. So not saying or beating it up or that's wrong or right. I'm just giving my input on these type of men who typically have that type of ideal of thinking that yes, men have ruled by force, um, often more than not, than intelligence at times. So that's just my opinion. We're gonna keep going.
22, masculinity is being redefined. And I think what happens is people get upset when things start to change. No, I think that nobody ever wants to take that away from men. I think that what
buck, white, trans man,
we want to do in the world now is start to understand what is masculinity. And it's always been really associated with this very machismo space. And now there's different kinds of men in the world. There's not just biological men. There's also trans men or people who want to be masculine. So I think what's happening now is people are pushing against change because change is scary and people don't understand. And so I think men, biological men, feel under attack, when I think that's not what's happening here.
The point that you made is 100% correct. There are different phases and people are experiencing it in different ways. The feminist movement is, I think they are attacking masculinity within men. I don't want a man to open the door for me. I don't need a man in my life. I can do all these different things. What they're doing is attacking men, and that's what's causing the problem.
What part of the feminist group feels like?
Now, the thing what's so interesting about men, most cis hetero men, they tend to ignore. You're gonna see. Well, you're not gonna see it. What's gonna happen in the phase of this video is they're gonna ask certain questions, the panel, and you either step forward if you agree or not. You're gonna hear a particular question where you're gonna see where cis hetero men, or particularly these men that are on the panel that are representing cis hetero men, they're going to not see the other side of what's the opposite of feminism. They're not gonna see the institutionalized patriarchal design of society and government and their response. So, it is so very, very interesting that men, often heterosexual men of all races, tend to see the reaction to something but not dealing with the cause root, especially when it comes to gender and sex dynamics. So, you know is femininity can be toxic as well as masculine, but I think is that the this it needs I'm just going to say that feminism is because of an unevenly yoked process and standard for men in all aspects of patriarchal society, particularly heterosexual men.
feels like it's attacking? Because I know that most feminism is like wanting equal pay or...
Well, you just said that women not needing men is somehow empowering. You know, having a man is somehow less empowering, or being an individual is somehow less
But that's how
empowering.
women feel.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. What I am going to say about both sides, it's more to that, baby, than just your proximity to men. I'm gonna just go out and say it that the whole biological argument, when I hear cis hetero or male born men, heterosexual men say that, oh, it's biologically the right place. No. The gender construct of patriarchy, where men forcibly rule over other men. Males in every species and females only are dependent on procreation. Female carnivores aren't waiting on male carnivores to give them the cue to hunt and fend for themselves and avoid their prey. Same thing with the herbivores. So we have to pay attention when these men, which you're going to hear, are saying that this is the biological correct way, when it actually goes against nature and biology and the patriarchal construct, how you've built things to where women or female species humanoids cannot. Okay? So, yeah, that's not a biological trait. Okay? That is a political construct. That is a human ideal, not natural to nature.
Feel. Right. Women actually are saying that because that's how they feel. It's
but that's not how every woman feels.
But no one's saying every woman. They're only how women speak for themselves. So all of you are going to have different opinions as biological men.
Absolutely.
Women all have different opinions. Oh, you see a very specific group of women saying this.
I mean, you did just say that's how women feel. So are you speaking on behalf of all?
No, I'm not. Let me take that back.
He makes a good point.
The women who are saying that feel that way.
Why do you feel that women in general feel disempowered?
No, I don't think in general. No. That's a generalized statement. You can't say that. I said the women. No, I did not. I said the women who say that.
You associated somehow women are now embracing masculinity, which means that they are now more empowered because they don't need a man.
Right. When men feel empowered.
Oh, hold on. He's going to say
when women need
But I don't think that...
Men feel empowered women. So, see, that's the thing. You're out of balance if you think that women doing what they need to do to survive are female species. That construct, that whole thing, that doesn't exist in the animal kingdom nowhere. You are misgendering, and you're putting a misgender construct role. I'm sorry, not because gender is a human construct. You're mislabeling the sex of the behavior. Okay? You're misappropriating and naming the sex of the behavior, because everything in biology, in nature, is going to codependently or group. There are some that move in a group, but it's not a thing where the females are just waiting around for the males. No, they tend do what they need to do too. Same thing though too now, because there are some mammy ass men out here, you heard me, that they are nesting. They haven't grown away from the nest of the mother's bosom. And as a male, you are supposed to still be able to self-sustain. So as a female, so sustainability to some of the ideals of some heterosexual men is an imbalance or misappropriation of labeling masculinity, when both sides of masculine and femininity have the ideal of self-preservation in nature, not gender, by sex, not gender.
And women's empowerment comes from having a man or not having a man. So why is it always associated that a woman's now empowered because she doesn't need a man? A woman has always been empowered. Women have never been.
But they've never felt that.
That's not true.
I mean,
That's
if
not
we go
true.
back to the 1920s, if you're going to do that, but that's not what
But
we're
of
talking
course,
about.
you
We're
have
talking about society right now.
Right now, you actually think women are empowered right now?
Absolutely, women are empowered.
Who's the vice president?
And how long did it take for her to become a vice president?
There is a right and wrong way to be a man. Take a second to think about it.
So I just got my entire apartment cleaned for $19. Seriously, $19. We're talking.
I think that when I originally heard the question being asked, I didn't agree with it. But men are not abusive individuals. Men are not to be cowards. Men are to lead their families. And men who do not display that, I don't believe that they are men, in my opinion. And all of the qualities that I see in my father is what I believe a man should be.
All of those characteristics are what make a man. And when I see a man be a coward in the truth, in just speaking the truth, or sticking up for what's right, especially today in America with everything going on, I'm like, those are not men. My name is Clarkson. I'm 24 years old, and I'm a conservative man. My biggest question for the other side really is, are you happy? Anybody that wants to fundamentally change society and change gender roles, to me, that's not happiness. And if we want to fight for acceptance, we need to start with acceptance, which is accepting society for what it is.
Now, I'm going to go here with this. This is very much a same gender loving homosexual white gay man. I am a same gender loving Black American man. This is a reason why I personally do not like being referred to as gay, for the thought process of what he just said, Clarkson just said here. To think because someone is not happy with society, with things that are happening externally, is the reason why they should not want to change, at least change who they are, shows a level of complacency. Because for same gender loving Black American men, our reality is totally different from that of him. So yes, this man who is also same gender loving, who's gay, he still qualifies as a white American man. He's still at the top compared to everyone else when it comes to the color of law, when it comes to national origin. So, of course, he is complacent, because when you look at things like the Lavender Act, which had more to do about white same gender loving men and homosexual men to be accepted among the elites or accepted among white people, it wasn't about intersectionality of all same gender loving people. This is why a white man, regardless if he is homosexual or heterosexual in America, can be gay, carefree, and lighthearted. That's the reason why that would be synonymous. The agenda, not the agenda, the change of the language of being called gay. So this man here has a complacency that even some cis hetero Black men would not have. So I'm just pointing that out for people that are listening that are heterosexual. This is a complete distinguishment. It's not just the conservative ones that have this. So understand that he, despite, because see, society had to change in order for you to be sitting there to be comfortable speaking the way that you did. So I got mine. Fuck everybody else. So that's not just the pathology of the Black queer folks and heterosexual people from the Black community. I'm going to continue.
At the end of the day, we're all men, and I don't believe there's any wrong way to be a man. We're just redefining what it means to be a man.
But there are things that naturally come to men. So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today. So just like aimlessly throwing out, oh, well, we're just redefining what it is to be a man. That's not just like a light subject that we should be talking about.
But why do they have to stay the same? Why do we need to have the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years?
Do you not see the state?
It's not the same thing. It's just keeping the same qualities.
But do you see the state of?
same quality. See, everything else about society for him as a Caucasoid genophenotype, white classified American man, I don't know his national origin. You see how there is a disconnect. The patriarchy works for him in ways better that it'll never work for cisgender black heterosexual men.
Our world today, it's not perfect. It's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
So we're talking about redesigning what it means to be a man. So what do you want to bring to traditional men?
I think it's embracing that you can be vulnerable. I think that a lot of men want to portray strength, 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 but men are people, and I know that men have feelings.
Being a man and masculinity, those are two different things. And I believe that we can redefine whatever that means to anybody by including other types of men or other types of masculinity. I myself am a father. I have a child. Some people would disagree with me being a father because I am transgender. But that being said, I present to the world as male. My child sees me as a man.
There's proper ways to be vulnerable, right? You don't have to break down in front of your family and cry. It's okay to suffer silence as well. Strong men.
This is so interesting. Now, Brandon, the very tall, muscular, handsome, black American conservative Christian man, this is something that black males of all walks of life unfortunately can relate to, especially same gender loving men. But this is a construct. Notice that he said, suffer in silence. You could just not break down and cry. Now, no other men, it's so interesting that we have to look at what happened with Black American men as to what was taken from them. Because the very same patriarchy that you're defending by the men from other European colonial countries is the reason why you think breaking down in front of the woman that you say that's your wife and your children. So I get within certain contexts, but if there's something that emotionally moves you in a way, then if you can't be emotionally vulnerable in front of your children, then how will your children be emotionally vulnerable in front of you? Or your wife?
I believe exude the qualities that you guys are referring to. I think the problem is overcorrection, right? Some people believe that men need to cry and lay on the ground and be feminine like women. My name is Brandon.
Wow. You see, you see how the mind of what has been done to Black American men. See, this ain't no Pookie, this ain't no Ray Ray, but there is a very same from the low value Black American man and the high value man. Do you see, in the sense of income, economical status, right? Do you hear the similar language, the similar trope, what's going on here?
I'm 34 years old and I'm a conservative man. I had a lot of curiosities about what it's like to be a person who believes that they're a trans man. I feel like God has created all of us very uniquely. And although I have beliefs and I follow the Bible to the T, I still want to know from other people what their experiences are. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but I really want to know what other people are feeling from the person who's experiencing it real time.
I have male privilege.
Now, who stepped up to say something about this was 3 trans men. None, absolutely none of the cisgender or biological males, conservative males, said anything. Okay? And that just goes to go back to my point with this same gender loving white guy. The patriarchy works for certain men of certain nationalities and ways better. The only way that mostly Black men have patriarchy is through the Black community. But globally, that patriarchy works better for other men beside Black American men. Okay? There's a different type of reference and respect and influence not just in sports and entertainment, that other nations of men have in the patriarchal stake of that view. Let us continue. So I just want to point that out. None of the men, and it just goes to show, because I'm not going to sit up here and say that, oh, there's no black men that are same gender loving that doesn't see the view just like the white same gender loving man that's on the conservative side. Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. So definitely that toxicity when it comes to maleness influences patriarchy and the behaviors of men regardless of sexual orientation.
Oh, so I've lived both lives, and I can tell you firsthand that it does exist. I am taken much more seriously in my career since I've transitioned as a man. Prior to transitioning, I would work just as hard, if not harder, for the same position and not be considered. The minute that I transition, I am immediately taken more seriously. I can give you an example. Obviously, with COVID, there's like the mask mandate, right? So I have to tell customers all the time, you need to do up your nose, right? Do that all day. My manager, who's above me, who is a woman, will have to go to them, tell them they give her a fight. But the minute I just look in their direction, it's up. It doesn't seem like a privilege, but it is, because now my manager has to work 3 times harder for something that's so simple.
I think the word privilege is the thing that turns a lot of people off with this conversation. But that being said, again, myself living my life as a female, pretty much half my life, and then now half my life as a man, there is no way I could not be honest about the fact that my life has changed drastically. Also being a white man, that's also a conversation a lot of people don't want to have. But I have privilege of being white and privilege also of being a man now. I can walk into any room and command that room in a heartbeat because people just do that with men. And I think the thing is that
I appreciate the white trans man being honest about that to make that distinguishment versus the cisgender white man. So, you know, who I would probably be able to relate and want to have more of the conversation with as a cisgendered, same gender loving Black American man, it would most likely be this trans man right here. If I had to say for a bias for race purposes, right?
biological men are born into that space, so they'll never ever see it. Why do we now, as women who have become men, get to have this thing? It's 100% because we are men. We look like men. Nobody would ever know. No one would ever know that we used to be women. So it's actually a real lived experience.
I could work at other companies, but it's not the same.
Sorry,
they don't have the mission.
So I agree with a lot of what you all are saying as far as like transitioning. But as a Black man, privilege looks way different for me because if I'm walking down the street, then I'm seen as a threat by police, by women, by anybody else. Being seen as a man is where my privilege stops and where everything else begins. So I don't see it as privilege.
Okay, I got a lot to say about this.
That is so very interesting. So, you know, it is one of those things to where this biologically born Black female, I would like to ask her the question, well, what experiences did you experience so much? Or, because I'm not going to say that's the only reason why it has to be a trauma. I'm not speaking, but I also wonder, what experiences did you experience within the Black community, if you were in there, that made you want to identify with more of within that part of your inner self of who you are? What was that? Because for him to know that, for Lucky to know that, hey, I am stepping into this world to where I can be profiled, and this is something what I feel deeper within. You know, I appreciate him for now when it comes to the Black code thing that's non-existent, that's invisible. But as a Black American man, I salute him for also pointing out that nuance and understanding that dynamic of what it means to carry that.
About this topic here, And first of all, I mean, we have to be transparent and honest with each other. You know, I think that not everybody on this side presents.
Hey, what's up, New Rick on the brain? Look, I'm going to drop the link so you can go ahead and come on as well. So hold on, let me see. Okay, this is going to be fun. All right, so I'm going to drop the link in the chat. Hold on, let me do it like this. Post comment. Bam. Oh yeah, y'all. So I hold on. I did it earlier. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. And I don't want to act all stupid. Don't do that to me, y'all. Okay. Okay, so I dropped the link. So, come on through. You should see it. It's the StreamYard link. All right. Anybody else that want to join the conversation? Okay, let me know when you get there. I'm gonna continue the video. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's New Wink on the Brain. We know each other outside of internet. we're very familiar with each other as musicians, and he has a dynamic experience as a black heterosexual man. That I will be glad to have this conversation, especially with his voice on there as well.
It's 100% like a man. Like if I saw you in the streets, I wouldn't think you were a man. Men have it.
Now he's talking about. There's one particular trans man that's on there. That's the youngest, and he's going to say that he just started doing testosterone, and he doesn't. Now all these trans men on here, baby, let me tell you, they look. You would never know they were biologically female, except for one of them. Now, one thing you will notice is, and I think that's more the genetics of the people, these were shorter or smaller stature women versus women who are more statuesque and more stallion and tall and just very tall and womanly like that. Because see, I don't equate tall women. As a little boy watching DC and Marvel, tall women to me just make me think, damn, that's a lot. That's a lady. That's a full lady. You know what I'm saying? So these trans men, before their transition, they just didn't inherit as much height and bone density as some females had. But I've seen some trans men that would blend in stature with these same cisgender biologically born men. So that's the difference where you can. But if you're more thinking on that level, because I don't do that either, because there are plenty of testosterone filled 5'9", 145 men out here, baby, believe that. You know what I'm saying? But at the or 5'7" or 5. So, but anyway, that's what he's saying. Brandon was not saying that to say he would not think they weren't men, because he pointed in the direction of the one person that I would think that was more a female, masculine presenting stud, lesbian, right? But the other trans men that's on there, based off of looks, not to say that I wouldn't treat him as he or him and his, not just based off of appearance. The other trans men, there's no way in the world you would not know they were not born biologically male.
Have it really hard in this world, and they've always had it hard in this world. The wars have been fought by men. They've died in the hundreds of thousands. Men commit suicide more. Men work more dangerous jobs. If somebody broke in this place right now, who are they going to expect to defend everybody in here? It's going to be the men.
Okay, I am tired. Oh God, if Reckless is a friend of mine, shout out to Reckless on YouTube. We are talking about this. That protection thing with men. I gotta say it. It's black men that only goes to this scenario. It's heterosexual black men. It doesn't fucking matter if it's a 6 figure or 4 5 figure. The first thing that they equivocate or the example of protection that they want to go to is if someone breaks in, the brawn, the physical part. I get so drove hearing that example as if, which is clear that most, Black American heterosexual men do not see where you need to protect emotionally, sexually, spiritually. You have to be, not only protections involves waiting for something to happen, being proactive to prevent something from happening. Even if protection comes from protecting your wife and your children from your trauma, and which means protecting them from you. Protections, a lot of times, what I'm going to say is protect your family from your toxic ways. Don't repeat that. Okay? So there's more than protection than just the scenario of a motherfucker breaking in your place, when, especially when you living in places like Texas. Shit, that ain't a black thing. Baby, you could do that shit if you want to in Texas here. I'm from New Orleans, but I live in Texas, you heard me? Ain't no woman sitting up there worrying about, oh, let a motherfucker break up in here. So most people can carry. So I'm just over that whole trope and that whole announcement of protection being just delegated to the physical part of the brawn and not the emotional, psychological, spiritual side that comes in protection and the proactiveness that comes with protection. Let us continue.
If your family fails, they're not looking at your wife. They're not. They're looking at the man. You know,
that's subjective. It depends. No, it really just, because with patriarchal rules, women are meant to be there to be the teachers. And if anybody who got any good sense gonna look at both of y'all asses. Let's continue.
I just want people to understand that there's some advantages that men have, and then also men do struggle in custody and all kinds of different things.
100%. 100%.
About custody, only, and when he's referring to custody, he's referring to the split, because the same patriarchy where you see that you don't have any privilege are the ones who created that. So because patriarchy has designated women to only be nurturers and not use the other sides of their femininity, just like you have in your masculinity, that are basic survival independent skills, right? Separating in the court of America and Western society, well, it's the same male patriarchy where you said there isn't any privilege. You're the ones that created that construct. That's why the child often goes to the mother, and this is your responsibility according to the same patriarchal standards that you're upholding. You have been chosen to write that motherfucking check. Now, you should be there more than just writing that check. But in the case of separation, this is how men decided.
Agree with you as a man now, right? But what I think my perception of it is different than yours, because you were born male, you were raised male, you have a whole other space.
All right, here we go.
Yup, man.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Chilling. Just got off work. Doing good.
Yes, man. So, so have you been listening so far, anything like that?
I've caught everything so far.
Okay. You got any thoughts or anything that you want to go back or speak on?
No, just one quick question. Where is this like a video that you're watching and talking over?
I don't have the software. I'm doing this off of my phone. You heard me. So the link is in the description box. So I don't have a way to share the screen.
Right. No, that's cool.
So I'm just going to do it this way. But if you want the link, like I said it earlier, you weren't on here. The link is in the description box.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If you want, so you want to let us continue. So anytime, I'm going to lower it down now. Now, is it coming across too loud? Is it clear, or is it a little too loud?
No, it's good on my end.
Okay.
Their StreamYard is even better.
Awesome. Okay.
Sounds good.
In that, and I totally respect your opinion on that, and I believe that is a true lived experience as a born man.
Yeah, and let me add with the black man, because we have a total different reality in that. I don't, in no way, form, or fashion do I go into a room and I feel like I'm less than. I think I command presence when I go into a room because the way I'm dressed and I'm tall. I go in the streets. I've never had a person cross the street. I've never been attacked by a police officer. I was a police officer. You know, I've been pulled over probably 3 times in my entire life.
I mean, my biggest question with this and why I don't necessarily agree with it is because when it comes to privilege, there's not really a way to quantify it. It's very subjective. So like your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very different. So it's hard to see.
Now, again, you know, I kind of have a gripe with the white same gender loving guy because it's clear the bias and the selfishness out of all of the cisgender men. He is the most, I would say, inconsiderate of other people because he is able to just quantify when nobody here is giving data. There isn't any screens or anything. So just because it's diverse in its complaint, it nullifies that because that's, you know, that's kind of like a majority minority thing. That's
Right.
okay to have in a sense of votes in politics, but when it comes to the human experience, no, it's, you know what I'm saying. And then the irony, he made a statement earlier saying that, I don't know if you heard, well, if a person who wants to change society means that they're not happy or with themselves and shouldn't. But the irony is, if it wasn't for like things like the Lavender Act, right, that made it okay so for white gay men to be accepted, you wouldn't be sitting here talking now.
Let me just make sure I got it. I think, and this is the 45-minute long video, right?
Yes.
Right. So and okay. So the reason I'm like already like one step ahead of you, I am a big fan of Brandon Tatum, and I remember watching this when it first came out. How many minutes in are you?
I am at. Let me see here.
Yeah, I'll fucking do it on my end, so at least you can
13:47.
Perfect. Watch this. We about
to
do this
look
the
at
right
the
way.
scene work. Look at the scene work.
We about to do this the right way.
Yeah, because see, you know, I was like, you know what, man, I can't wait and say I gotta wait to get that. So, you know what, you gotta work with what you got.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're gonna make it work. Because, you know, I do this all the time now. Come on.
Yes, you do. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, and I know, and that's the thing, bro. You know what I'm saying? I know I can hop on people's panels and stuff like that, but I was like, you know what? You gotta start with this side of social media. At least start putting those thoughts out instead of going live on Facebook. Work your way into, you know, I already have some type of recognition from being on people's panels. And it's been said, do you have a channel? You have a channel. I can't keep referring people to a channel without new content.
Right. No, I feel that. That makes sense. But yeah, you want me to take it from here? I mean,
yeah,
I'll start it, and you just tell me when you want me to pause it.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thanks, bro.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you pause it if you have some commentary to add as well.
Let me make sure the audio is going through. Hold up, because I have a feeling it's not presenting the audio. Oh, my fault.
Because you're clear on my end. Yeah, y'all. So, you know, this is, you know, where we at. It is so interesting, man, because all the panels that I've been, you know, on and I've sent you, it's been a lot of conversations that it keeps going back to toxic patriarchy and the effects of patriarchy and you know, dealing with those type of, you know, institutions and stuff like that. So it was just like, you know what, this is so cool for people if they can't see it, which will be better because they can see it now. They can hear that like these type of effects affect so many different intersectionalities in a way to where, you know, some of the reactions of what you see is a reaction from that. You know, it's not just the cause. Without, yeah.
it's gonna be funny that I repeat this person, because the person I'm about to repeat, not a lot of people like this person right now because he says a lot of really dumb things. But I will say, at one point, he said something real smart. He used a term, and I'm gonna adopt the term because the term was perfect. We're trauma drunk. We trauma drunk, and what's happening is, if we're so trauma drunk, we're just constantly feeding on trauma, constantly feeding on trauma. What is the first thing every trans gay person say? I feel so free now, right? Feel so much happier now that you're yourself. Now that you're able to express yourself, it's freeing, right? Okay, if it's freeing, what were you jailed to before that? You know what I'm talking about? What are you free from?
Well, here's the thing. It might be self-liberating, but it's not completely just lighthearted. It's a more relief of being able to express yourself, but the systems and the way that the institutionalized world is not going to be, just because you have a self-actualization and realization doesn't mean that that's going to be the perception of everything. And I'm not one of these people to, people can't just say it doesn't matter what other people do outside of your world and society. That's a lie. You live in a multi-ethnic people society. So it might be a sense of being relief, but just because the reason why they're not able to do that is for these, unfortunately, yes, it is what it is, a lot of patriarchal systems that are put in place that are to benefit certain emotions in certain places. So there is a repression that is there.
But okay, with all that being said, how can we square the circle to, and I'm going to take Brandon Tatum's move because I already know what he's going to say next. When we're talking about, adults making these decisions to express themselves physically with their appearance, and they're changing their appearance, they're willfully changing their appearance with help from surgery or whatever, or even just clothing change, right? Whatever it may be. If that's what it takes for that, and again, you already know me. I'm the person like, hey, if you need to go wear high heels every day and wear a dress, do you? If that's what makes you happy, do that. You know what I'm saying? You already know. I don't mind. I don't care. But Brandon Tatum comes from this level of, well, I got a lot of data, and he's like, hey, a lot of this it's aimed at children. It's aimed at a level of, like you were saying earlier, protect your family, protect your home. That's, in a way, he's protecting his family. You see what I'm saying? Because he's looking at it as, hey, look, I got kids, and now we're really putting this trans agenda ahead real fast. So
yeah, but
there's a difference.
Well, the thing about when I hear that argument, I'm so glad you brought that up. Well, because see, that's the thing though. Unfortunately, most heterosexuals that say that, you're being hypocritical. Because if you cared about sexuality being pushed on children before puberty, then you wouldn't have been taking these last 60, 70 years over sexualizing children. Like, only heterosexual normatives do stuff where, they see the opposite gender of a 5 and 6 year old boy and girl. Oh, that's going to be his boyfriend. That's her girlfriend. Yeah, they're going to be a cute couple. You're already projecting adult-like sexual connotations to children. So I think in a sense of, and that's the thing, no one is pushing. Here's the thing, it's an unfair bias because, well, we've been pushed with heteronormatives and hetero representation, and we're still able to be who we are. We didn't have a choice. See what you're describing? Guess what? Same gender loving and trans people had to always feel like that. It's just something that you're saying now because you're actually having to physically see and recognize that. It's not that it's aimed at just children. And here's the thing, there are plenty of heteronormative things that are aimed at children who are not going through puberty. So we can't have, I call bullshit on that, because if you really cared about sexuality of children, then heterosexuals wouldn't have dare move the way that they've moved in the last century.
True. And I'm not even disagreeing. What I'll say is, next question, if we're kind of down the same path, if if, like you said, there's already been a feeling of being outside, and now you're able to express yourself. We're showing that to kids now because guess what? Hey, everybody should be able to express themselves. True, I agree. However, where does that fit in the curriculum if at a school they're supposed to be teaching math and science, but now we're integrating something much more than math and science? There was recently a video from Project Veritas where Project Veritas went to a school in Chicago, and I didn't want to cover it on my podcast, but I watched it heavily, and I'm not even going to share it because of what they say, and a lot of the videos being taken down from Twitter, things like that. Mm-hmm. But they deeply explain that there was a principal at a high school in Chicago. It's a private high school. It costs $40,000 per year per student. So this is not a cheap private school. This is very expensive. This expensive private school had this principal that was inviting certain groups to come and show the use and types of toys for pleasure, things of that sort, and not just displaying them, but more of kind of like a full presentation is what was given. I'm not going to use the words they used in the video, but the principal gloats at being able to do that.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing: how often, if we do the research to see how many curriculums are pushing that, they're not. And here's the thing too: I'm not for teaching sexuality to any child that is not going through puberty. I think that should be something. Now, when it comes to teaching sexuality, here's the thing, though. Are we going to complain when it's time, when the young adult, the pubescent adult is 14, 15, 16, when we start teaching the attraction of what happens? And here's another thing, because people put a lot of stigmas on the gay community for being sexualized. Well, after watching heterosexuals being so sexual, and not having dating culture. Here's the thing: putting that in the educational of that sense at that age appropriateness is something that would be fair at that age. Now, when it comes to sexual, there should be no curriculum. I think, yes, you can teach biology and reproduction without going into sexuality. Right? There's a way for you to break down with anatomy, because I'm totally against the sex, because see, I've been sexualized by heterosexual culture as a 37-year-old man more than I've ever been sexualized by anything homosexual, right? I've been in more uncomfortable situations of having to navigate based off of heterosexuality in ways that most people are. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why they want to say it's a choice, but that's another. I'm gonna go down that road hell another, a little later maybe.
Yeah, I was say yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? So I think that people don't want to really be honest that, well, yeah, you're being more of a stickler for that, but there were other things that taught about safe sex and sexuality to pubescent children. Now, if you're not going to be upset, if you really cared, if you truly cared, because my stance is clearly is that you can't just say that, we're sexualizing the children, but if we're heterosexualizing the children, that's fine. It all sounds bad. Children and sexualization shouldn't go together. Unfortunately, that is something that the predominant and subdominant heterosexual culture has done. Thus, the rules of underage marriage. It's okay, right? She's 12, 11, 10. She just got her period. Oh, it's okay because it's a heterosexual relationship. See, there is no gay culture or no homoerotic or trans culture that institutionalized and made laws like that.
And I think anything in that situation where we could say one party could be a victim, that's where it should end. Period. You know what I'm saying? Plain and simple.
It's not about, I don't want to say just a victim, but there has to be an accountability, because when we have conversations like this, that's what I'm saying. It's calling out the bullshit. If you didn't feel this way, you only care because you don't give a damn about it being your children. you have a personal, and here's the thing, yes, you do, because let me tell you what I think a value fear is, even though I don't agree with it, because let's face it, most heterosexual men are more afraid and more concerned about what other men think of them outside of just social economic means. So you're more afraid, perhaps, and concerned. It could be an ego thing to where you think how this represents me amongst the patriarchy and all the other guys, and that could be part of it. And you also understand too the discriminatory part that comes with that. So just because you're trying to, but it's not healthy for you to say, oh, since there is an acknowledgement of this, my child seeing this is going to make you think that. Well, here's the thing, if you're naturally heteros, that's a whole, we call bullshit, because here we are as same gender loving and trans men after dealing with the extremely insensitive hypersexualization and watching the degradation that goes on among heterosexuality.
True.
So,
and there are certain things, like you said, even within heterosexuality, there's things within that it
it's
fights
toxic.
within itself.
It's not
it fights within
because,
itself.
And it's not because heterosexuality is bad, just like homosexual. No, it's your gender construct. It's your patriarchal parts. Now, there are good parts of patriarchal, yes, but unfortunately, a lot of it, because even some of these guys are going to say we're our forefathers. Well, of course, you're a white, straight man. So those are your forefathers. They made sure that liberty and everyone could be free. Of course, you won't think that, motherfucker. Of course. Of course. So there's a nuance to that. And that's one thing that not you, but it really gets me with other black men. You're sitting up here complaining about other groups and being represented, but that was the same society that had to let your black ass in the door. Let's continue the video.
Yeah, for sure.
1347. Is it playing?
Yes.
I can't hear it.
Okay.
Or see it. Yeah,
Can
I can't see or hear nothing since you did it. Because try it again. Because if not, I'm going to just continue with the audio where I left off to keep going.
To see the other side because you've never lived it. Yeah. The difference between you and us is we see it because we've lived it. You have not. So it's easy to speak and be like, well, it doesn't exist. Well, how would you know?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think everybody has certain privileges, but what I think the question here is what defines male privilege over women? Because women have privileges too. Right. So is there a graph that you guys are calculating?
Now he using that gay tackiness. Is there a graph for calculating the construct of women and how they're able to move? Like I was saying earlier, the whole child support thing in custody, guess who you have to blame for that? You have to blame the same patriarchal system that you're saying that you don't have no privilege in.
You know, I keep hearing the word system. You're so right, because even the system that gives this white dude the opportunity to sit there and say the words he's saying, even though he's also gay, it's like, dude, you can't bash other folks, my G. Like, you know, you were obviously put into a situation. I'm just guessing. You look like your mama was a Mormon or something.
Yes, come on, come through.
So at this point, we got a system that was probably telling them to stay inside, stay indoors, follow rules, do this, do that, do this. For him, the freedom was he didn't have to listen to nobody no more. So guess what? He made some choices. He's now able to feel and express himself the way he wants to, because he was probably told not to for a long time.
Right, and
he sounds troubled.
And but here's the thing: he's suffering from the toxicity mentality of patriarchal system.
Yep, because it's the same system.
It works for him in a way that it doesn't work for the majority of even other fucking heterosexual men. Okay,
right.
You see what I'm saying? Because that's another conversation. But we're gonna get into it. I'm so glad you're here, brother.
Oh yeah, I like this.
Men have more than women, or what? The privilege is not acknowledging what you have that comes so easy.
So do you think that your fear, because you live both sides, do you think your fear is something that you have in your mind, or you think it's a reality? Because let me say this: you never really changed as a person. You're the same person.
Right. Exactly.
Now, it's so crazy for him to say that. Now, the interesting part that you know that they were once female,
right.
But for you to also state that, so all of the women across the world have an atomical fear of men because it's just in their fucking minds.
And he almost like seconds that point with, trying to compare strength, because he's gonna do that in a second. But when he's doing that, it's not really, what's the word? It's not proving his point of being different than.
Yes.
It's almost reinforcing their point of, hey, we want to be different than, fool. Like, that's what we're trying to tell you. Like, what the fuck? That's what we mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I mean, from the trans man perspective, if anything, they want to be you. You know what I'm talking about? So I mean, and it's not even a wannabe thing. Maybe it's a real deal feeling of, I am in that. I'm on that
I'm
side.
more masculine,
I am that.
predicting and expressing. And it doesn't always have something to do with dating, because that's one thing I'm glad they didn't. I'm so glad they did not. They're gonna touch on it, but the focus, what most people get caught up, even same gender loving cisgendered people, they automatically just equivocate people who are trans to a sex life. No, motherfucker. There are people who are androgynous. There are men who aren't, or women who aren't any type of LGBTQ, but they want to express something physically. Hell, when I had them long ass locks and I would curl and do my side part, bitch, that wasn't for no motherfucking man. That wasn't to appease to no woman. That was for me. That was what I felt good expressing. It had nothing to do of what mate I was trying to attack. But let's continue.
So you have the same physical capabilities that you did when you were a woman?
No.
You don't?
My strength is entirely different after.
What percentage would you say?
More than 100%. I weighed like 100 pounds. Now
you're still not probably as strong as me.
But it's not about strength. It's that women.
Yeah, like you see, you're still not as strong, and it really gets on my nerves with a lot of straight black men that do this. It's the most archaic fucking caveman display of fucking masculinity. It's like, but you're not as strong as me. Nigga, we can tell that you're bone density. You're more stronger than most other cisgendered men, motherfucker.
Facts. And with that, like I said, he's hurting his own argument, because I see what he's trying to say, and as a fan of his, and I've been watching his channel for years, he does not hit a home run here. This is not one of those situations where you're going to walk away like, man, he made a good point. No, that's not going to happen today, because he keeps trying to push this whole, you're never going to be as big or as strong as a man, so why do it? Why not just give up? That's not really a way to have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Even if everybody in that room were cisgender or were whatever you want to call it, they can all be black for all I care. I don't give a fuck. But if he's in a room full of men, I don't think this conversation would go that way. You know what I'm talking about? Like, there wouldn't be a situation where you point out the smallest dude in the room and you're like, yo, you ain't you're not as strong as me, homie.
Like that just shows. And yes, and race does play a role, because I talked about that a little bit. Notice that none of the other cisgendered men did that. That white man is a very much big, tall, fine motherfucking Irishman. Descent, I'm guessing, because of the red hair. Okay,
but he's not taking it to that level.
Yeah, he's not using. You can see that he hits the gym just as much as Brandon, but he's not flexing that, and that is something that I wish that more black men understood. The men that conquered you, my nigga, is fierce with you, but are at times more gentle with the people that they love. What causes him to be so fierce with every other man and sometimes woman, because he does have that tenderness that he wants to preserve as being supreme.
And it's almost strange that Brandon Tatum here is making this thing, because from what I understand, he's trying to make a children's book soon. So it's like, you're showing this more softer side of yourself on this book thing, and you over here talking about children's books now, and I'm like, hold on, how are we now, trying to be aggressive at any moment? You know what I'm saying? Like why should it ever go to strength? Like, what the fuck?
Because for black men, and I'm not saying this as no shade, But unfortunately, that's the only thing that makes us feel like we have a leg up. All of the other men flex with their intelligence and their physical strength. So
True.
for even him as a black heterosexual man, as successful as he might is, he still has that same plantation buck mentality that I need to be seen as this brute buck. None of the other men are flexing off of their physicality. And then it's that whole sexual ego, the BBC, and I'm the big burly black man. See, that's a flex for you.
And check out my fine white wife. Check out my lady right here. I got
my
piece right here.
Exactly.
Yeah, he does that shit a lot.
Yeah, see, I didn't even look at his channel to be able to read that pathology.
No,
but
he's
that's
there.
a
Yeah,
flex.
he do that.
Yeah, that's a flex. That's a flex. But here's the thing. But that's a flex that you have to do because you know amongst the other men of other nations where you fucking stand. That's why you have to make that flex. It's a insecurity, self-esteem booster. But here's
just
the
about
thing,
to say that. Yep.
And what makes, but this is one thing I'm gonna say too, and I get so, because I was having this conversation with Avantre today. I get so tired. People might not like it, but I'm gonna fucking say it right now. I am tired of hearing black people say, oh, we're physically better, or we're physically stronger. Okay, then why are you saying that you are impressed by the person that you are saying you're fucking genetically superior to? That shit makes you look worse.
True.
And one thing about it is, so what? The only thing you have done with your physical athleticism is be exploited for sports and entertainment. So you being physically, and maybe that's not true either. Have you seen the people in Russia? Have you seen the people in Eurasia? For you to think that these men are not physically strong or stronger than you, get the fuck out of here. You wouldn't be here. And another thing, not only stronger, but bitch, they beat you in psychological warfare. So I don't give a fuck that you have a 9-10-inch dick. I don't give a fuck that you genetically have abs. I don't give a fuck that you have a big thigh and a big ass and a big chest. None of that shit stopped you from being conquered, regardless, and that's globally. Let me make my drink. Go ahead and time in.
I love it. I love it. But that and so spot on, because again, Tatum always wants to have this whole we men, we are this, we are that, and I'm like, yo, you kind of don't speak for everybody, man. Like, you really don't, because there are those that disagree with half of what you say, like myself, and I don't agree with everything he says, for sure. I'm not a fan of a lot of his takes, but what I've seen in this video so far is it's not coming across as a conversation.
Even when it's not necessary.
Right. It's
so
like that
I
was
can only imagine.
That was off the ball, for real.
I can imagine how fucking aggressive, and you're emotionalist because you're the only person on the whole panel who don't think you should cry in front of your family. You're the only person who said that. And I'm not saying that to just be attackful, but here's the thing.
It was not necessary. Like that, like any masculine move in that situation was not necessary. It's like, how are you not reading the room, G? Like,
but masculine intelligence, not fucking brawn, you idiots.
Right. Like, he's trying to mansplain it. And it's like, dude, what the fuck?
I'm mad at the pathology. You know what I'm saying? I don't know him. Right. I don't know his content. But this is the behavior that I'm going to say, because this ain't a not all black men, black women channel. No, if I'm talking about toxic masculinity, please know that I'm talking about the most that's doing that. And the most, there's data to also quantify how frequent and often that fucking most and average is. Okay? So, I'm not mad at him personally, but he does embody and represent the toxic patriarchal behavior that we as Black Americans, same gender and trans people, have to deal with, and women. Let me continue.
What I don't like is that he's trying, like, he's attempting to make a point, but he's only repeating things he's heard before. He's not being original in this take here. Like, nothing he says here is original. I think he's regurgitating half of what he says here.
Yeah, because the other men, because here's the thing, because he's And I'm not saying that this because I'm a Black American man. That don't make me none less ashamed of my ancestors and everything.
Right.
But I'm not going to disillusion myself to cope with the fucking reality. Words by my father, who aren't my biological.
And really, who I would have rather seen it in this whole sit down if they were going to put a Black person in there. There were other people that could have spoke way better. 100%.
Same thing with the Black trans woman one we're going to do another day. I wish they would have gotten a more well-rounded and intelligent Black trans woman than who they had. Because you know how they do the little panel, and this is just off second. We're not going to go into this. No, I'm not even going to mention it. Let me continue. Because we're going to go off. No, I'm not even going
to.
Men are targeted. Men are not targeted. I mean, maybe sometimes. I'm not saying it's never going to happen.
They're targeted by other men.
Right. But women are targeted by other men. I think women have.
Yes, man. But see, I'm sorry. I keep pausing because he's speaking. He represents Black men. I'm a Black man. It's like, duh, motherfucker. Men conquer and target other men. Yes, they do. That's why other men have subdued you, even in the countries of your birth.
That even goes more into what I was just saying. He's trying to make this point, and then he tries to like almost go into, oh, well, Black men have been oppressed, so how can you say, that trans people have been oppressed? Like he's trying to make this whole who's more oppressed. You can't have that battle, dog. Like again, trauma drunk. It's not something to where we can sit around and say who's more traumatized. That's not going to get anywhere. It doesn't fix anything. In all these systems,
but for me, it's not about saying who's more traumatized. But yes,
he gonna do that though. Watch. He's gonna do it. I promise you. I already smell it coming.
Because come on, go on. Yes.
I know he's gonna do it in this piece. That's what pisses me off because there was another conversation that I've heard before with a medical doctor and someone who's detransitioning. That was a good conversation, but again, it was just one-on-one. It was long form. It was great, but yeah, I don't think this panel situation was well thought out.
I like it. I just expressing my point of views.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good example.
I like the panel. I actually did like it, to be honest. But that's why I'm doing this video to get my thoughts, and I'm glad there is a Black heterosexual man on here to add the balance to that. So you know what I'm saying?
Right, for sure.
So here we go.
And have less of a safe space.
That's what I'm talking about. Men don't have a safe space. If you go to certain
but I'm talking
cities,
about
they get murdered by
but I'm not talking about certain cities. I'm talking about everyday life.
Yeah, every day. I think that's a blatant
statement. Have you ever been attacked as a woman?
I have been. I've been raped. I've been attacked. I can go on and on and on. I was homeless, living in the streets, raped all the time. It happens. It's a real thing. Yeah. I didn't see the guys on the street getting raped, but
men do get raped.
100%.
Yes, the exception. Yes, in prison. Yes. But not. It's a gross. I hate when we have these type of conversations when women are saying things. Oh, but it happens to men too. That's the exception,
right?
Not the fucking rule. Let me continue.
But the experience of
you do get catcalled down the street, like
I mean, women say things to me when I was a police officer.
Do you feel threatened?
Women can't physically subdue and impose sex on you without drugging you or something. You can do that. You can do both. Continue.
You feel empowered though, right?
No, I don't feel empowered. I feel this.
But do you feel scared? Do you feel threatened when a woman calls you?
No, I don't. I don't feel threatened if a man try to challenge.
Because you have that male privilege,
right? As a woman,
what if a man was whistling at you when you were walking down the street?
I've had it happen to me. I had gay men whistle to me.
But how does that make you feel?
I don't care.
Okay, cool.
I mean, as long as you don't touch me and we cool.
Right.
You may think I'm attractive. That's fine. That's cool. I
think women will say the same thing. As long as you're not like trying to be predatory, and I've seen it because I go to clubs with my friends who are girls, and I have to tell the men to literally leave them alone because they keep going and they're predatory and they're literally scouting out for women that are drunk or whatever, not even drunk. She could say no 1,000 times and they're still going to bother her. But the minute that I say something, they stop.
Women are not as strong as men and they get targeted. Sure, yes, that is a privilege that men have over women, but that doesn't mean that men have privilege because of that one situation. Men commit suicide way more than women do.
Positive. Yeah. So if we're gonna do the whole suicide process, I'm gonna go here real quick. More men per capita are in the armed forces. more men of the armed forces commit suicide. So we're talking about an already skewed metric. It's already fucked up. Like the numbers are fucked up. We can't say, oh, hey, we're gonna have this job that literally top 10 hardest jobs in the world being in the U.S. military. So if you're in the top 10 hardest jobs in the world, and we're starting to see an influx of that same group of people, majority male, and we're seeing that they're dying at a higher rate than normal. Why aren't we doing anything to address what's going on in the military? Don't give this whole, oh, hold on, we're more traumatized than you because we're men. Dude, cut it out. Like, it's not going anywhere, you know?
Yeah, and I'm so glad this shows, because see, when I have these conversations, people don't get to see how the toxic patriarchy in the Black community, because we say about all these systems, but please understand there are also white Americans and white people that are underneath this forced patriarchy too, right? Yeah, I'm not saying that it's our job to be concerned or in a particular, hopefully we could get to a place like that, but right now I feel like we do need to deal, but at the same time, but look at what is happening. Look at the toxicity. Look at the insensitivity. Look at the privilege that also comes with other races of men in this patriarchy.
It's there 100%. And just like the one was saying that goes to the clubs, you know, they may not be able to see it, but you know, this is someone that looks, you know, kind of a, you know, Hispanic, maybe, or Asian descent. So if he's, you know, taking it to that level, going to those type of clubs, he may be seeing a certain type of male. If that's true, I 100% agree with the takeaway there. They're very aggressive, and you know, men in clubs, they don't, you know, they don't take no. Like you say no, and they don't take no. I've seen that too. I can vouch for that. And guys are definitely not in
every
the right
fucking
pocket.
race.
Right,
every fucking race, I've seen that bullshit. Let's continue.
Because if we're going to go that route, trans men commit suicide twice the rate.
But that's not. I think what's important here is to distinguish the fact that yes, no one is negating the fact that women get preyed on. You know, there's situations where this happens, right? Like no one's going to deny that. But we're also just trying to say that it's not like a one-sided coin here, where there's no like men are just, you know, we just have it good and we can do whatever we want. We can't even be the next Supreme Court justice, because you know, it's like.
But you know, again, I live as a man, so I see the difference.
Yeah.
When I said I have privilege and I walk into a room, of course, but then there's other things that are expected of me now as a man that I would never knew were expected.
So would you guys agree that that there's such thing as female privilege?
Oh, sure, 100%.
My wife has privilege because she has me.
That's right.
So,
I don't like that. Oh, that wasn't cute.
God.
That wasn't cute.
Oh my God!
That's why I said it earlier. I was like, this is not one of his best takes.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah. My dick is so soft. Listen to that. Let me go continue.
She don't have to worry about her safety because I'm there.
I don't believe that as a man, it's like, you know, there's marketing for women brands. I can't be the next Supreme Court justice. Like women are very much more empowered today, which I think is. I don't have no problem with it. I mean, like, good for you. But I think that the man I probably have privilege because I'm, you know, 6 foot 210. Like no one's picking on me when I walk down the street. You know, I used to live in Chicago and I used to walk home all the time at night. But like, was that smart? Probably not. But I felt a little safe because, you know, I'm not 5 foot 100.
It is also because you're a white man. Because niggas ain't gonna fire. Well, one thing I've seen from living in low income neighborhoods. Other Black people, Black queer people might not be safe. Black women might not be safe. But baby, let a white man could walk through that motherfucker unscathed.
Well, and another thing he mentions, he was walking home from work. One thing, even in the hood, when the hood sees a motherfucker actually going to work every day consistently, I'm gonna be honest with you, the hood kind of helps you out. You know what I'm talking about? Like they ain't trying to hurt you because they know you're on your way out. You know what I'm saying? So that also goes to maybe that's not privilege, just the way you're carrying yourself.
That could be it too. But I also could see though, but part of the reason why he didn't say what part of Chicago. I don't really hear the reports or see the reports where there's so much white on white crime in Chicago. I don't know if that's a good report. But I'm saying if you're a police officer, because I have to ask them, well, are you a police officer? Okay, if you're a police officer and you're a white man, sir, no one's going to fuck with you.
pretty fucking privileged.
Yeah, so
getting a lot of free shit.
I can see, especially when he said Chicago. If he would have just said, "Oh, I walk somewhere at night that's not known to be a predominantly black city," well, the fact that that's a predominantly black city and you're a white man, so your privilege doesn't come from your maleness as much as it comes from your whiteness. But yes, it does play a role. But no, still, niggas will be scared to try a white female more than they try a black. They will be much more scared to fuck with anything white than they will be anything black. It's just what it is.
True.
But 100 pounds at max. I'm 29 and I'm a conservative man. In today's society, women and men can be whatever they want and be as successful or strong or as big of a leader as they choose. So I'm just wondering, in a society that is so seemingly level, more level than ever before, why are we transitioning to different genders to find, and what are we looking for?
Biology.
Now, see, that's the thing. Like, you see how you kind of asked that question in the same way. It's just like, but see, that's happening because it's now becoming acceptable in society. It didn't happen because society didn't change. But his privilege prevents him. Even I like his points. Mark, the guy who just fought, I like his, but still, his patriarchal privilege shows because he still doesn't understand that. Well, it's happening now because society has changed. So we have all this time before this recent thing, right? And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but most white people have that thing anyway. Oh, something could just turn around and they want you to see it as if it's been around for 30 years. And they want you to ignore the other 60, 70, 8, 2, 3, 400 plus years that a certain system has been in place. So that's part of his privilege as a white male who's at the top of the food human
and
race.
Really, the quick and easy answer to his question is the internet. Blame the internet, dude. Like no time in ever has everyone been so visible. Like we can literally see everyone at some time. We can see everyone. You know what I'm saying? And that mass visibility. Guess what? You're gonna see some differentiation from the fucking normal. Everyone's out there. Everyone's online. Everyone's gonna have something to say. But
you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's like, well,
you're gonna find out some new shit.
Yeah, why are people transitioning? I'm like, well, sir, everyone doesn't live the way that you live.
Right.
It's impossible for you as a white man to understand. I'm not saying you have to, but that's why you don't.
And with that, and so I heard this amazing point from I think it was someone who's like very, very much so in their upper age, up there in their 80s. And they, transitioned back in the 60s. And they're like, well, what do you think we've been doing this whole time? People have been doing this. All these surgeries exist. Like, there's no reason that the surgeons, like, what's the word? She made it, she said it like there's no reason that there's already words for the surgeries. Like, this isn't new. Like, there's already words for the surgeries. There's already better techniques for how it's employed. There's treatment centers. Like, it's been around. Like, it's not something brand new. Oh, why is trans happening now? Motherfucker, hey, dog, it's been happening really, really. But I guess to kind of, again, answer his question, there's not really a process of why is it happening more. It's again, you're just seeing it more. If you don't like what you see, you don't have to watch.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that just because there's a compromise that's been made that's comfortable for you to accept, that it has to stay within the confines of what you're willing to accept, either in that change. Let us continue.
Biology determines gender.
Hold on, I want people to hear that.
Okay. Life hack.
Hold on, let me mute this.
So as they choose. So I'm just wondering, in a society that is so seemingly more level than ever before, why are we transitioning to different genders to find, and what are we looking for?
Biology determines gender.
So sex and gender, people try to argue that they're different, but sex and gender actually go hand to hand. And our biology, being a man, comes down to every fiber within our body. So whether that be DNA, chromosomes, testosterone levels, bone density, there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into it, and it all has to do with biology.
So biology.
He's part wrong and he's part right. And I've said this earlier, and this is one thing I recognize that heterosexual men do. Like, that whole gender is a construct of humanoids, the roles. Your sex is biology. So you being a male, not a man, you being a male, yes, that's chromosome. That is hormonally. That's not that is your gender role is not a biological inherited thing. Matter of fact, you're going against biology by creating the construct where you force women to only nurture, and because everything else in nature, male and females are codependent of each. They're independent and codependent of each other. They're independent when it comes time if they're carnivores to hunt and avoid their predators or herbivores. They're independent of taking care of one's own autonomy and self. They're codependent on the continuation of the existence of their particular species, right? Or kingdom. So no, you have patriarchy has forced and gone against nature for thousands of years by forcing females, right? Forcing females into a position to where they cannot be responsibly or autonomously for themselves. Because the fucking irony is, perverted, toxic patriarchy, pick and choose. Yes, the very same female, before she was a mother, she was a female. In the case of humanoids, she was a woman, honey, before she was a mother. And that gender, that whole thing, equivocating female independence of basic shit like food, shelter, and clothing is not a masculine trait, sweetheart. That's a self-preservation trait that both masculine and feminine in its antiquity have. So that is a false narrative that
I can make
biology is responsible for gender roles.
I can make it even more. I can make it even more simple. Men love cars. In most cars, the best interior of cars are like Alcantara, certain types of leather. Who the fuck you think makes that leather, dog? Who the fuck you think sews that shit? A lot of it's men. So you can't say only a woman should mend clothes. That's incorrect. Because again, most clothing is made and manufactured by men. And even with that, there was another gender role scenario someone had brought up. It just sounded so ridiculous because again, we can share these roles, but we're not talking about the point that this male is trying to make. This guy's trying to make this point of, okay, there's biology, you do this or you do that. Well, not in all cases.
And that's not biology.
That's simple. Right, exactly. It has nothing to do with biology.
Yeah,
he's linking data about biology to what the roles people play in society. Those are two completely different things.
Yeah, because biology isn't. Yes, you could say in the physiology of the differences of the anatomy of both sexes. Yes, but the functionality is equivocating that no, in biology, females are not walking around waiting for a male to provide something for them. Same thing with the males. They are not running around waiting for females to provide something, but they do codependently are drawn to each other to continue thus the circle of this fucking life.
Right.
So it's not a biological. Patriarchy is not fucking biological. It might be more. It's actually outside of nature because it's not in anything's nature to be dependent on something specifically for its gender outside of procreation. Let's continue.
I 100% believe in biology. Today we talk about biology being a social construct. I disagree with that as a transgender person. I was born biologically female. I always acknowledge that. And today I live as a male. Now that being said, sex and gender, they are trying to separate those things. Gender.
You live as a man, not a male, but let's continue.
I've chosen my gender. As you see, nobody would, I think, probably understand that I used to be a female. Now, many people do, like you just said, believe that sex and gender are one thing and you can never change those. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to show the world that this is how I feel by presenting the outside. But I think denying biology is where we get into a lot of problems.
If you want to be, seen as a man, then like,
right on.
Who are you to? I don't care. I mean, you do you, whatever makes you happy. But I think like it becomes a slippery slope. It's like, how are we going to deny basic human facts? Like, there's two genders.
I think that causes problems, and it causes problems for me.
Yeah.
Because the minute I start denying your biology, now you feel attacked by me. Right. And I don't want you to feel attacked by me. I never want you to feel, I want to be a part of, if that makes sense. You don't have to agree with my choice of how I live my life, but all I ask for is respect.
What do you have on your driver's license and your birth certificate?
Right,
do you change it to male or do you change it to?
So that being said, I transitioned to live as a man 29 years ago. So that was way before you see any of this stuff. And I had to acknowledge my biology, right? That being said, my license, I travel the world. It has to say male. Can you imagine if I showed up at the airport, they're like, female? Dude, there's not.
I love I can totally agree with that because, I say that even as a same gender loving man, I think what people often confuse from the trans community that they think that, now not to say that some of them are pushing that envelope, they're not trying to change what it means to be that sex. But since this is a construct that has been created unnaturally, that goes against we can see that this was by intuition outside of what naturally occurs in nature, the gender roles. So the gender, having women in their position, is not biological as it is social construct.
Right.
100%.
I agree.
So that's why I understand there are a lot of trans, because when you talk to Black trans people, like our good friend Jaleesa, aka Retro, you see what I'm saying? Who's gender non-binary, but who's lived their life as a trans woman before, doing the gender binary for 10 years. She never tried to say she was female. She understood that what I'm going for is to live my life as a woman. I'm not trying to be female. And people confuse those very two. That's why you keep hearing trans people say, my gender expression. People will say, boy, there are plenty of people in many walks of sexual orientations. Boy George, right? Big Frida, that might be based off of age. They're not changing their sex. He's not changing his anatomy, but some would say that is gender fluid expression. And how we design clothes that, truthfully enough, have something to do with sex. But the construct of what is permitted and allowed and designed and socialized is indeed man's intuition that's outside of nature.
And when you say man's intuition, I guess you have to go to the designed intuition we're told to have. Because again, it's all a fucking construct, man. Like
it's not biological. It's not all biological. That's I'm so glad you said yes.
Because again, we can't boil down people's expression and how they want to look, and we can't boil that down to some people can and cannot have certain roles. That doesn't make sense. Like
we've already did it with we've done it with females,
and it obviously didn't work. So by doing that, the whole 1960s nuclear family, the wife does this, the man has a job, that's that. And like that's not the case anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it's obvious that it can't be the case. I'm living it right now, like straight up. Inflation's at a point of, if we both don't have a job, we are not gonna make it.
And y'all have four beautiful children.
Point blank simple. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost a must that we both work. A long time ago, it would be looked at like, your wife makes more money than you. Oh my God. Why would you do that? Well, no. At the same time, it's like, hey, look, we gotta make it. Plain and simple. Hey, she makes more than me. Whatever. We make more together. How about that?
Hey, glory.
That
was the word. She makes more than me. Okay, we make more together. That was the whole word.
That's it.
Because there are times I never once, like me and Chris been together for 13 years. sexually polygamous and open in that way, even emotionally with other people. We've always been like that. We live in 2 different households, but yet our finances still come together to support each other.
Yep.
And to push each other. So it's we both
it's an exercise in betterment.
Have to work, and we both got to work, regardless if we're in separate households or together.
Right. And again, that's an exercise in betterment. It doesn't matter if it's a male and a male, a woman and a woman, or a male and a female. It doesn't fucking matter. We've even seen situations where it's a dude and 3 or 4 other females. Dude, whatever, man. No one ever gives that.
We have roommates, me and Chris. We you see we stay with a roommate.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, so I mean, you know, in situations like that, there's never a question. But you know, in this video, perfect example. The dude in the suit with the tie, he nailed it. They keep assuming that okay, things are supposed to stay this one way. No, dude, cut it out.
Well, because it benefits. Because here's the thing: it puts females at a disadvantage and put them to where they can present basic mediocrity. And there's nothing wrong with being average or basic, but you could be below basic and average and not have a certain. You can just sustain a household because of financial reasons, because females don't. It's not legal for them to work. You can't see some of that was disingenuous because the way that you laid the law of the land out.
That's what I was just gonna say, because and he's even presenting him, just the guy who made the dumb question about biology. He's sitting there with this suit. Most men don't even own a suit, so you're already in a different class immediately. For him to even be in this panel also proves they probably talked to 100 other motherfuckers that look just like that nigga. But guess what? They put him on for a certain reason. There's more to all this video than, and I kept saying it when I first saw it. I was like, somebody doctored the shit out of this. This is weird.
It's ethnic. I can't say they did a good job by ethno groups and national origins. You have a Black American descent man. You have a white foundational American man. A Latino. I don't know what country the Latino Hispanic brother from, but he represents that. And of course, they have another gay man, and they just went with white because that's the default, right? But same thing.
I hate that they focus on like 2 of them or 3 of them being conservative, and they really focus on that.
Well, everybody, but here's the thing. I get the point, because I want to, because I have conservative friends and people who have that view. I also like to hear the conservatives. So I personally don't see anything wrong with it, because it is interesting to hear what some conservatives might feel too, because I'm not going to use this as a template to paint conservatives per se, as much as I definitely will say with patriarchy, yes.
The reason I bring it up, though, is because a lot of people who claim themselves to be progressive or even claim themselves to be liberal literally have the same exact question frame. The same question thought frame is exactly the same in all these other groups. But every time they put 2 groups together, it's always conservatives versus the gays. It's like, dude, like, it's always this group, like one conservative versus fill in the blank. And I mean, I get it. It's probably easier to get a whole panel worth of people who claim to be conservative. I 100% get that. But if they do a panel like this in the future, I would like to see a mix of
liberal
political ideology, if you will, along with having these questions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think that'd be cool.
But here's the thing about it, though. But to me, this is more the
this is the now.
This is what's politically the rule.
Straight up, yeah. This is the now.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is the now. This is the 2020 for sure.
This is the now. This is the bin. You know what I'm saying? So it's
a good start.
It's a good metric. I actually think it's a very good metric. I'm going to continue.
Oh yeah.
There's something going on here, but I actually got my birth certificate changed to male. I was the first person to do that here in Los Angeles. But that being said, I kind of think that it might have been a mistake to do that now, looking forward today, because I never thought we would be having this conversation.
I'm glad you said that, because I love that people can express themselves. We live in America. It doesn't matter what I believe, what my religion is. I love that people can live their best life. I'll never, ever in my life protest or try to go against the person who wants to identify. The problem is when you begin to try to change language and you begin to try to change reality, and then Therefore, it changes on the children, and all of that becomes problematic. If a person says, okay, I acknowledge I'm born as a man or a woman, but I want to identify as this, cool, I respect that. And even if I didn't want to see it that way, and some people may be a little more ambiguous, I wouldn't never disrespect you. I'll call you by your name.
That's right.
Whatever name that you want to be associated with, I'll do that. And I think if everybody in the country,
that's the only sensible thing that he said. The other guy said it too, and we already addressed the whole hypocrisy on the children because, by data, I wish more Black men really did care about how they're represented and presented in front of their children, even, by being there, first of all, to
present. Just involvement. I was just about to say that. Just being involved.
You just have to be there. First of all, be there. But even if you are there, though, that's another thing too. I have the exception of the rule from having this single parent father who was accepting of me, who more focused on my characteristics and building good relationships. That is the exception and not the rule, right? But what I don't like to see is that, that whole pushing the children. Well, no, sweetheart, there are more damages done. Everybody has trauma, sweetheart, because they had the opposite sex gender parents and they constructs of them navigating this monogamous institutionalized ideal of marriage.
And really the most damage is coming from, heterosexual presenting males who are doing things in the background to little kids. That's something that seems to always go unaddressed. And if we're not going to talk about it, maybe that's where we should be focusing some change. Just grown men doing bad things.
Well, the people who's I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you. The person who, but these are the same men because these are conservatives. So that's who gave you your 1611 canonized King James Version Bible and presented the ideologies of these things. So it's also a good
enforce it on the nation.
It's a good cover up because they've presented in their text, even though their 1611, their Bible doesn't say that, but still,
that's how they present it.
It's easier for them to control the narrative that homosexual or same gender loving people, because that's a difference between that and just being homosexual. Same gender loving people and trans people are not the ones who do that. Actually, especially in a world where most sexualities and those things weren't legal. So who else would have the propensity and the close proximity to children and having children to do something to children? It would be those who are heterosexual and who falls underneath the gender construct of being a man and a woman based off of the humanoid outside of nature construct. So
100%.
It's the best cover up because they know that these people we've made these people abominations, despite God, their God's pronouns are he, him, and his, and they're clearly stickler about he, him, and his having a penis before this time, that is. So at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, if you are the ones that's presenting a patriarchal society, of course, you want people to have a patriarchal spiritual system belief so it could be in line with their intrapersonal navigations.
You nailed it. System of belief. You nailed it. And that goes much further than anything that they could have a problem with, because if they're saying system of belief, guess what? A lot of the rules and words that are being changed, it's not being done by the groups that are called trans. It's not them. It's the Democratic Party. So, I mean, if we're really going to if we're really going to point the finger, we need to point the finger at the groups that are doing it, and
some toxic ass LGBTQ people because
because they're bought and paid for it. They're part of a whole different group that has nothing to do with trans people. 100%.
Yeah, so I let's continue, man. This is good. This is good.
Country can get on that same page, I think we'll see less division.
I've noticed in a lot of the trans individuals that I've met, the older generation who had it a lot harder in society to be accepted is a lot more willing to have the conversation.
We didn't have social media. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have computers when I transitioned. This is how you build bridges. I'm Buck. I'm 59 years old, and I'm a trans man. Because I'm an elder trans man now, and there's a much newer generation, there's a definite space where I have a different way of being than the younger generation, and why I tend to call myself a transsexual man. And I believe in biology, I believe in binary, so it really does not necessarily align with the new thought process that is happening with the newer generation.
That is such a, yes, and the age difference does, because see, shout out to Big Frida from New Orleans, baby, from my neck of the woods. I love that segment. I seen a post of her and Young Thug. And Young Thug, they were sitting there both smoking cigarettes. So you know how Big Frida expresses himself or herself. He doesn't matter. He understands. You know what I'm saying? However you see Big Frida. Young Thug was like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know how to address you, your pronouns and everything. Because, Big Frida is obviously androgynous. It's not trying to be a woman, but not wearing all men's clothes, but not using the masculine parts of the expression with all that bass in his voice, and how he still expresses feminine energy. You could still feel that feminine energy, but you can hear that testosterone. You could see it, but you also could see that feminine energy too. You know what I'm saying? So Big Frida was like, you know what I'm saying? Look, the whole pronoun thing is kind of new age to me, baby. Look, I'm your Brista. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter to me. So my homies in the hood, I'm they bro. I could be dressed like this. Because I've seen it. He could be dressed very androgynous and looking pretty and slaying like he be doing, right? And he could be doing that. And no, that doesn't mean that that's not part. Big Frida is not a trans person. As Big Frida is just Big Frida and is comfortable in their anatomy and the expression. So Big Frida, it doesn't matter. He said, so my sister's in the hood, I'm their sister. And then when times with other things they need me to be their brother, I'm their brother. Okay, I know who I am. I am not confused and that's a beautiful thing. You heard me? Like, some girls don't go real New Orleans. That's a beautiful thing because everybody doesn't have the ability to do that. But just like I'm a person from New Orleans, and the way that I speak and have those views, we grew up so international. We had a different paradigm to where, yes, it's easy to say that though, when there are a lot of people, when it's part of the culture and it's not this weird thing if you cross dress or if you're gender binary or if you're trans. You see what I'm saying? You've seen it. So but I also could see the age part of it, because yes, Big Frida grew up in a culture during a time. I'm not saying it was just cool for all gay people, but let's just be real. New Orleans is very international and it's a red state, but New Orleans is liberal like a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So, but still red in policies, but it's really interesting. But still, it not every older person. I feel the same way as the same gender loving black man going on 40. I know there's a difference in the sense of validation or comfortability. And I'm not saying that the new age is wrong, but I also do see where there are some of us who already had that type of affirming and being comfortable to express who we are, regardless if we're trans or not. To where I'm not fucked up, nigga. Yeah, you hear this bass and you see this hell. I'm not fucked up if you call me shit. You know what I'm saying? Rumor, you know what I'm saying? But you hear that, you already know. You hear that, all that vibrato, that bass in Big Frida's voice. You're like, nah, that's that masculine voice. But damn, that expression still gives me some type of feminine energy. Big Frida is not saying anything different about his or her sex or anatomy. You know what I'm saying? She understands, because I can use either or. She understands that, look, however I present and the energy and I express, if you call me that don't fuck me up, baby, because bitch, this ain't for you. Like the similar attitude I got. I like this hair, bitch. I like these nails, bitch. This is for me, regardless of what's between my legs. So for some people, they're able to have that expression and continue. I'm gonna continue the video on. You can still hear me?
Oh yeah. I'm still here. Yeah, I can still hear you. You're good.
So I love this question. With trans folks, biology does change. Our bone density does change. Our muscle structure does change. Our testosterone levels do change. So biologically, we do change. Anatomically, now that's where surgeries come into play. So when we're talking about biology and gender that can't be changed, our biology absolutely and concretely changes.
Not the DNA.
But our
DNA does not change.
Yeah, DNA is not going to change for anyone.
So you acknowledge there's a biological difference between males and females, because some people on the other side would say there's no difference. Like a female, like I can look like a girl, not having testosterone, but I'm still a male.
Some people are male, some people are female, chromosomally. But when we start to take testosterone, our bodies do biologically change.
But what about trans men who don't take testosterone?
Then their bodies don't biologically
they're
change.
biologically still female, right?
And gender in itself is something we get to choose. Okay,
That's right.
Just like you said.
Well, in your life, you get to choose. Not you don't get to choose it for the world, but you get to choose.
No, I get to choose my gender.
Now, but here's the thing: there are people. Certain people have gotten to choose for the world. Hello.
I agree. No. I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. You're right.
And the only thing is just
you're right.
Yes, patriarchy got to choose for you in this aspect. Colonialistic 13 colonies, patriarchy just said, got to choose for you in this instant. So you're saying that yes, I'm just, that's why I'm so glad we're doing this.
Mm-mm.
But yes, no, people do get a say so in how they get to see and change that, because there's something already imposed there. I'm gonna continue. You got anything to say?
I was just gonna not really take too much away from what they're going at, but I see, when we start talking about taking hormones, things like that, males don't have any leg to stand on when it comes to steroids, because that's a physical biological change for real. So, and that's something that has been, we've seen every extreme. So, when I guess really I would be looking at it like, I guess we really can't judge when it comes to, hey, look, I want my body to look a certain way, because, hey, we idolize the males that run around with steroids, but
ain't women out here using ain't natural born women out here getting BBLs and altering this shit. Yeah, so, and it's so interesting that people only want to bring up that mistake when it comes to people who are transgendering gender. And despite all of the overwhelming researches and studies of the negative effects of cosmetic and plastic surgery has happened on people who are cisgendered.
What there's a whole network of TV shows. Fucking that TV show Watch. I mean, come on now. I mean, dude, they're on like season 10. But
yeah,
outside of entertainment, that's a case study right there.
Yeah, do we really fucking care? Do we really care if a humanoid or a human person is doing things surgically to alter their body, even if it's from their detriment? Or do we only care when it goes against our idealism? Let us continue.
Because I've been on testosterone for 10 years. Okay, going on 11 years.
But there's some anatomy that will never change.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you still have ovaries. You still have, the female reproductive system. You said that you had a child.
Yes, I've given birth. I no longer have female reproductive organs.
Right, but you had that. You will never get male productive organs.
And when you think about it, the male and female.
Oh God, he says that
again. Not his best take. I mean,
my God,
yeah,
it's
hard. It's hard to listen to.
I'm so glad, because see, I usually be in the B sector of YouTube having these conversations on so many black panels, right? And he is he is very much a Christian man. He is showing, because I'm glad he's also showing that, because it's like, bruh, like, you will never have the sexual reproductive organs. Says from the community who procreates everything but cultivates nothing.
Right.
Yes, you fucking procreate. Yes, you plant, you fertilize a seed. But after the woman is done physically cultivating and birthing, you are not continuing the fucking cultivation most of the damn time. And not just black men either. So it's so aggravating. Yes, your manhood, your not just your maleness, my nigga. Yeah, you got that from your maleness. That's not the peak of your fucking malehood. That's maleness, nigga. It's maleness. It's not fucking, but of course, a person who really has a conquered buck, high value presenting mentality is going to only think plantation, buck breeding, procreation.
Right.
Now I'm hoping he but see, it's the thing. I'm scared to think of what you're cultivating, because they might be well off and well to do, but more of those interpersonal issues, what the fuck they can't say to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't.
And that's what I fear for him. I'm like, you know what? In the long run, I hope he doesn't
right,
stay on TV too much.
Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want especially my daughter, not even my son, because you'll influence him to be toxic. Hell no. But let me, and it's not just him personally. I don't know.
No, but he's following the system. He's following the system.
Yeah, the perspective. I don't know that nigga. I'm just saying. But this is the pathology. This is the behavior that goes on in our communities.
And it doesn't have to happen. And the real sad part is he's super smart, and he doesn't have to take this super macho.
Well, he is, because that's the only thing that
you know?
he can do in front of the other men. That's what I'm saying. Because the other men that are sitting on the pedal, even including the trans men, are best at him in every way. Data are statistically doing better, or more, coming from more double. I don't give a damn about all that double parent home, but for the sake of this context of this conversation, yeah, they're coming from more two-parent households.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, they're coming from more of, still, regardless if they're American, the ancestors of their national origin, despite dealing with their colonists, they have more of a heritage. See, that he can only flex on that, despite him being in an intellectual space. He still have that thing where, oh, well, I'm the big burly fine, like I'm 6 feet something tall black man, and I have them perceived, I'm not as dark as the rest, and I'm not as dark as most Negroids either. You know what I'm saying? So he can that's his only way to flex. But the other men are not doing that, because they know, well, social economically, sir, you have all of that, but especially you as a black man, yeah, you're saying that because that's the best that you can present among the other men.
I'm surprised that the black trans man didn't come out and say that, like, yo, you got privilege just based on how much you look more like a paper bag, my G.
Yeah, that's true, but he couldn't. Yeah, but that wasn't the place to go there. But we can go ahead. We're going there here. That's why I'm saying that too. You know what I'm saying? We're going. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because we can. Because I wouldn't have went there either. I would have been thinking it, but I wouldn't have went there in that particular place either. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you're showing all of that. He's doing that because, despite him being part of the group of the conservative, the men that he's aspiring to be like, he understands the only thing that he's seen as being different, despite being the good Christian boy that he is that I'm the big burly black man that's known for my athleticism and my BBC, and I'm going to flex that because I know that's the only thing that I can flex to make that. That's not the only thing, but that's the thing that's perpetuated for me to flex. Right. And despite your intelligence, and you caved up, because if I would have be set in front of some other men, regardless of their gender, I would have flexed my motherfucking intelligence, nigga, instead of my brawn. Let me keep going, unless you got something to say.
No, go for it.
Reproductive organs are similar, and they're nearly the same. They're different. They're different in size. Even if biologically,
and they're different functionality too.
Not necessarily, because the testes and the ovaries are very much similar. One is an egg. One is a fertilizer.
But we can never. But I never can produce sperm.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And they can never produce ova.
You guys are saying that gender is like a social construct. Is that what you're saying too? That you could change it, but also, if you want to be technical about it, age is a social construct, your ethnicity and race is a social construct, and I'm Hispanic. I can't say I'm Chinese because I like Chinese food, and I can bleach my skin all I want. I can wear Chinese clothes.
No, race is not. How is ethnicity going to be a construct?
It's all social constructs.
How exactly?
If you look up, is race a social construct? Ethnicity a social construct? Is time a social construct? Right. Everything's a social construct if you want to think about it that way. But we have set truths, and we can't change those truths.
See, and he's not lying. But see, those set truths, no.
It's also a construct.
facts. Those are facts and truths are not the same. You can have a fact that can stand because the majority of something deemed it to be so. That's not the 100% truth. That's not. That's not. That's not all hours of operation. Okay.
And I think it's funny that he probably became a conservative because someone said "live your truth" to him, and
also,
he
Hispanic
found
and Latino, which we know that is really white, right? Hispanic and Latino is a Spanish culture. You don't speak no motherfucking Spanish and have the sombrero and make tamales, regardless if you're Caribbean or Mexicano or Central American. Exactly. You have that culture because the white Caucasoid genophenotype Spanish conquistadors came and imposed their will on you. So you're Hispanic and Latino, and you identify, instead of identifying with the part of you that, and I don't know if he's Mexican, but that is Chicano or African admixture with indigenous. No, so yes, when you're saying you're Hispanic, Latino, that's another word for just ancient European white. That's all you're saying.
Which is also a construct.
And you saying you're Hispanic and Latino is a social construct because it's a culture. It's not a race. That's, right. So
like he's doing the thing he's asking about.
Yeah. This
is great. Yeah. This is great. This is great.
If you want to say you're trans man, that means you're a biological female that thinks that.
No, I am a biological male. I'm anatomically. I'm still.
No. This is where the part.
I missed it. Yeah, they kind of missed the nail there.
The trans man. No. Yes, I don't have no problem saying he, him, and his. And I agree even with no, you're not biologically male. You're biologically female, but your gender expression is man.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm not against you being represented, but that's where I stand too. Because yes, me being same gender loving doesn't negate nature. I do not want to live in a world with nothing but men. That's too much testosterone. That's too much dick for my taste. Somebody will get hurt. I do not want to be in a world. So I need people like my brother, New Wrinkle on the Brain, to make. I'm glad that he's heterosexual. I'm glad that his preference and that he likes what he likes and he's attracted to the opposite gender, because I don't want to live in. I couldn't be here if it wasn't for the masculine and feminine expression that brought me here. So no, I do want men. I do not want men to all. And here's one thing I'm going to say this too, though. Just because a man might engage in homosexuality, don't stop him from procreating. Let's not pretend there's not gender fluidity without these labels, because let the truth be told. And it's, how I feel. I said all what I said about my brother here as an asexual man, but I'm going to tell everyone the motherfucking truth. Your sexual fucking orientation is not necessary for procreation, bitch. That's a gender construct. That's your sexual fucking orientation is not needed for procreation. Biology is. Nature is. And guess what's going to happen? Biology and nature, regardless of how many different directions or that people express their sexuality, guess what? There is going to always be a vagina that's going to want a penis and a penis that's going to want a vagina, despite if it does or does not do other things. Go ahead, brother.
I'm not going to go too conspiracy theory, but it's just an idea, just kind of like a thought experiment. So if there were ever, obviously in history, we can say America's been a nation that's had the most experiments. We can agree on that, right?
Yes, we can.
So with the experiment that we are as a nation, in the 60s, we had a time called, the flower power time, love everybody, man, hippie time, it was real, it was a different time. It's definitely a different time. Have you ever thought about why they make it look so bad, even though it looks like everybody had such a great time?
Yes.
It sounds kind of strange.
Being a New Orleanian before Katrina, bruh, if I have to say what a multicultural ancient Greece or Rome or Egypt looked like, I can say I had that experience. And not just because I was of a certain economic class. No, I saw. That's why that whole Hispanic Latino shit, that shit is bullshit to me. I don't give a damn if it's a Spaniard mixed hybrid person with a Spanish culture, or they're more Chicano from the Mexican, or more indigenous or Afro Central featured or mixed or not. regardless of them people having their admixtures of their genophenotype, there was no such thing as Afro-Latino. That's like when I saw you, I thought you was you look like a black Mexican. You just do. You really do. You look like a black, I've seen them. You look like a black, or Cuban. I would have, your feet, not just your skin, your phenotype and genotype. You look like a lot of people in New Orleans that come over, they don't speak nothing but Spanish. Them people didn't say, no, nigga, I'm a Dominican. I'm a Puerto Rican. It wasn't a denotation of their skin color as much as it was their nationality. So now Hispanic and Latino only shows that, yes, it's part of your culture and your history, because them Spaniard conquistadors with their crusades also came over here and imposed their will on you through their Catholicism and very strategic and well-organized warfare. You know what I'm saying?
And even with that, like you nailed it. You know, they were made it off of warfare. So in the 60s, when we finally figured out, hey, just love everybody, man. Fuck it. Fuck everybody. Yep. Who cares? Like, let's not have these constructs of marriage. Dude, at one point in the 60s, they were going to get rid of the whole idea of divorcing and owing someone, alimony, you know, like child support. They were going to get rid of all that shit. The liberal idea at the time was, hey, love everybody, have sex with whoever you want. As long as you're not hurting kids, have fucking fun. Dude.
Yeah, but
that would have been a great time.
That would have been a great time, but they also have to be responsible. But there's some responsibility, because here's the thing. There's the research. I got to go back and get the articles. Say people fail to realize the whole child support thing, that wasn't created for black men. That was created because white men were going around during Reconstruction, going around laying their sleeve and not doing. So the whole stereotype, do the research on who created, because you got to remember, institutionalized systems, something like the aid from a government or state for such behaviors would not be something they'd be worrying about a bunch of fucking colors or Negroes or going Negro. No. That's the
that was never the problem. It was actually fun fact. It was a Democratic move. It was a Democratic governor or Democratic senator that put up that bill.
Yeah, and I see why, and I appreciate him for doing that, because there has to be an accountability, because of we created this structure, this construct for women to be in these positions to do this and men do this. So we don't want to hold, and then the women have to let, not all the time in them days. That's why we have movies like The Color Purple and stuff like that. Yes, it was very legal for men to bash a woman in the head, and you do as I say and get capital punishment. And women, you didn't have the right to vote on autonomy to your bodies. This is something that patriarchy has done to you for years and stuff like that, not too far in the past. So
if I remember correctly, I think
and even if it wasn't legal, it was culturally appropriate. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's still legal in a couple states. I think in Arkansas or something, like you can still beat your. I think it's like the law is something like you can hit her with a stick no larger than your thumb, something to that effect. I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna have to pull it up again. But yeah, like apparently beating your wife is super legal in a couple states. Very strange. Sorry.
Right, let us continue.
Yeah, let's go. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Right.
I think it's really important.
And it's anatomic, okay? Because biologically, I have shifted, okay? Trans men going from one to the next.
Biologically and all these things, I know that there's importance for you guys, but meeting me or seeing me, you would never know. So why is it important?
Well, no, just say if I was a woman and I wanted to date you, what are you going to tell me?
I would tell you that I'm trans.
No, I'm saying you can't tell me that you're a man.
I mean, I'm still a man.
No, but you got to tell me.
Of course, he's worried about sex and dating. Let's go.
Hey, you got to tell me that you were born a woman. You have to.
I mean, I don't have to.
Well, because if I go down, if I see it in your pants, I'm going to see something different. And
of course, it has to be the black heterosexual man to be more concerned about the sex and something dating and sexuality. Of course. He had to be the one to bring that up. Of course, right, Joseph?
Well, and it's even more bothersome because it's like no one took it to the level of dating. That wasn't even the purpose for this conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because again, you know, it's biology determines gender.
Oh, but the gay people are sexualizing the children and sexualizing the culture. Yeah, black hip hop. Go ahead.
That will be troubling to me if I had an expectation.
Again, this is like leading.
This ain't a Pookie and Ray Ray. He got a suit on, okay? Respectability politics. Let me continue.
off the topic, but I mean, to answer your question, if you must know, I do tell the person that I'm talking to or interested that I'm transgender. I don't think that you need it to, you don't need a penis to be a man. I know that you may disagree, which is fine. Like, I get it, but I don't want one.
Now, I have a question for you all.
And he used the correct language. You don't need a penis to be a man as you need to be a male. He didn't say you need a penis, you don't need a penis to be a male. Two different things. So he used the correct language by saying you don't need a penis. Now, according to people, that's why I said what I said earlier. Before these conversations, he, him, and his denoted penis. So when you use the pronoun of he, him, and his in a patriarchal society with Abrahamic beliefs, this is part of the spell casting of delusion too, because we think that the first vagina was actually created by all male pronouns. Let me continue.
Do your penises make you men? Go for grubba.
Let me know.
Yeah, those ads are no fun.
Is that what makes you?
Well, I said being a man's ingrained within every part of your body, so our cells are.
Right, but if you had to look at the difference between us and between you, now would that difference be the lack of a penis?
If you were naked,
okay. So if we're gonna minimize being a man to that particular anatomy,
we didn't minimize.
No. I'm asking the question. Okay, if we minimize it, because this is where we're going, is anatomy, right? Because that's where we've gotten. Okay, so if we get there, so do your penises make you more men than us?
It's not making more or less. It's we're a biologically man. You're not a biological man.
It's not a spectrum, so it's not a question that we can answer because you're.
Yeah, see, they don't know the difference between biology, and political social construct. They don't know the difference between that.
They're mixing the two. They're mixing the social construct with gender in general. That's not how it works. You see what I'm saying? And I think that's what one side of the panel is trying to explain. It's like, no, you're mixing gender with expression of who I am, and it does get that deep. And if it does, then
because if that's the case, then God is trans.
Right.
The Hebraic God has to be trans or gender non-binary. Because if you're gonna not say that, well, God is not a man that he should lie. Come on now, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to face that. Okay, well,
and really, before we even go there, that's if we agree that there was a creator in the first place.
Come on, somebody, everybody, come on,
God,
come on, somebody, yeah. Because see,
that's a construct too.
The China man. Oh, I don't want to bring that up. There's something. Okay, we're gonna. Yeah. Let me keep playing. Let me keep playing.
Because you're saying on the spectrum, would this make us more of a man?
And when I say China man, because I'm a little loaded on that. You ever been drinking? I actually meant Chinese of people of Asian regionality descent, not just all Asian people.
No, you're good. You're good. I found an amazing video from this guy from Japan talking about their creation story, dude.
Yeah, and see because everybody doesn't. Yeah, every system of haplogroup and genophenotype did not do deityism or monotheism. There are some places that were polytheistic. There were people that weren't even theistic at all for their spiritual governmental practice.
What's even more amazing is if you get deep into just any of the creation stories, a lot of them do have multi-sex gods or gods that present in multiple sexes. Even the god motherfucker in India is
Krishna.
Krishna that presents as a male or a female. So and there's several other gods that do that.
And one thing I loved about the ancient Greeks before they dealt with the let me not say that the dicks of the ancient Romans. See, at least the Greeks, and they were also these were Caucasoids, aka white people. even with the ancient Egyptians and other people, even though I don't personally give credit to a particular deity because of their gender for certain things like the sun and the air. I understand the representation and I understand the cultural allegory. But at least with people with polytheism, I don't subscribe to polytheism, but it goes more with the balance of nature. Because yes, everything does exist because there is a harmonization and a coming together of masculine and feminine, male and female divinity, and
100%.
spirituality, and atomically and
100%.
biological.
And the way I look at it is, we were never given a full bill of goods anyway. It's not like one person on Earth right now has the real story of what really happened and how we really got here. No one has a real story.
And it's subjective because it depends on your national origin and your history, lineage, and culture. Even people of the same continent. Like when people are like African, that's that whole African American thing, I can't stand that shit. Because people on the continent of Africa are not a monolith. They are very specific countries. And even within those countries, there are tribal and there are family and there's a lineage. So there's a difference. And it's not just Africans. Every single haplogroup, every single genophenotype on the planet does this. Okay? So let's not forget that with the Holocaust, these were all Caucasoid genophenotype people. There was no fucking solidarity of white people. We want people to talk about anti-Semitism. Okay, but pay attention. Even among that, the first global anti-Semite were other white people. There were Germans. There was no unity of fucking whiteness based off of your skin color. Your ideology.
They're fighting for thousands of years.
Come on. Same thing. Lest we forget the Korean War here as Americans. A bunch of North and South Koreans. These are the same Mongolian genophenotype people now.
With that, with all the people you're talking about, they at the same time had a spiritual construct as well.
That were different
or whatever.
Part of the reason why they were at war. Also not just see. So that's what I'm saying.
They had what we would call gay. They had what we would call trans. That was all there. It was all happening then too.
Right, but there wasn't this unification of just oneness of based off how the fuck we look. It's never existed in humanity. Let us continue. I just got on that.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Of a man than you, but no, it's because we are a man and you guys aren't.
Well, we're different. So we're not men. We're different. Is exactly what you just said.
In my view, you guys are appropriating the gender and you are living as a man, but biologically you are not a man. So to me, it's not, you can't say, okay, well, does that make us more of a man?
Biologically, nobody is a man or a woman. They're either male or they're female. And see, because it's important to understand context. This is gender roles. So, no, biologically, yes, there are certain things that but that's that thing too. See, we socialize females. We tell females that if they go out and chop wood and have the skills to do things to fend for themselves and hunt, despite everything else in nature, all the female entities do that. We've socialized and weakened females to the full potential of their being. There's other sides of, just like we have over desensitized the masculine parts of us that are feminine. Because see, we've equivocated because for some reason humanoid men have this inferiority or this complex of needing the female to be weaker. Even though that might be anatomically correct in the sense of physicality, nothing else in nature exploits that when it comes to the male-female relationships. So it's one of those things where it's like, no, we don't just need, you're not speaking of biology. So I think it's the problem now because the veil has been lifted and females are showing what the fuck their potential has been since the beginning of time.
Right. And maybe labels and words are not great to explain or detail what that means for people. And maybe that's where where the confusion comes from for this guy,
Yeah, because here's the thing though, but it's a part of the construct that we have as humans have done. Because the words and stuff like that aren't necessarily all it's bad. It's just the way that it's been manipulated through the forced construct of, people forget that languages and governments and systems they come through the installation of war. You have to. This is why men, and I get that part too, and it's an ugly truth that most people don't want to see with the dark side of masculinity and femininity as well. People are able to establish rule because they were physically and psychologically able to dominate. Versus in nature, it happens, but not on an institutional. There's the circle of life of nature, but it's not institutionalized in a way to disposition one gender over the other. I'm sorry, one sex over the other.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I think the multiple pronouns and things like that's not helping the cause. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's causing more of this.
You mean with trans
that we're seeing? Well, no, just in general, because I mean, just in general, there's a whole bunch of different pronouns or whatever, you know. So maybe that's not clear enough.
But here's the thing, you know, I also see too, because I get the part of there's something that I say all the time in conversations, and I'm going to talk about that in my channel, and I'm gonna just try to go through it real quickly. I also stretch the difference of there's people who are heterosexual in their nature, but they're not necessarily opposite gender loving. And also there are people who are homosexual in their sexuality, but they're not same gender loving. Because gender, or should we say, but even getting further, I'm saying, well, they're not same sex loving. Being sexually attracted is not the same as being same sex or opposite sex loving. Because to recognize the sex just doesn't consist of the components of the genitalia. Yes, it might be used to make that differential, but there are more than just the genitalia of what makes a female, and same thing with a male. There are other things other than just the genitalia. So we can't say that, because it's about acceptance, and that's why I can see where most heterosexual relationships are disingenuous and they fail, because yes, you are acting on heterosexuality, but most of y'all are not taught to be opposite gender loving or opposite sex loving, meaning not just because of the genitalia, the other parts of what makes, yes, that person was born female, that person has a different, there's not just based off the social construct, just anatomically, chemically, harmonically, spiritually, emotionally, there's a distinguishable difference what makes that person that sex. So you have seeing someone and accepting people, that's one step where we have not done as a society, and that's within the heteronormative sexuality dating and procreation factor, which affects everything from that going down.
Right. I agree.
Let us continue. Oh shit! Come on.
For a man, that's not even a question to ask, because you're not a biological man. When it comes down to asking questions that make me start to change what the truth is and what the truth isn't, putting it on a spectrum when it's an objective truth, that's where I draw the line.
Your truth is an objective truth, and what you have is a fact, a very historical fact. It's not the truth.
The biggest problem with what he said, it doesn't make what you feel any different. The biological truth is the truth, and why can't that be the truth? And you also say, but I feel like on the inside that I'm a man and I'm going to present that way.
The argument is that people try to invalidate who we are with that. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but a lot of society in the world does that. Well, biologically, you're female. What hurts trans people that people don't realize what they're doing is it's very harmful. You got to be aware of what you're saying, what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, 100%. I would, and that's why I think we all agree. We would never try to offend you or anything like that. To be honest, if I saw anyone.
Now y'all want on this panel, but what you would do off this panel is questionable. And that's one thing I've said this even with a good friend of mine. Shout out to Roy Sullivan, mentors and stuff like that. I will get in context. He is a cisgender black heterosexual man that's involved with certain Hebraic faith beliefs. But he knows I'm a fucking heathen, and you know what it is. But we have the respect of each other and everything in ways on emotional context that has to do with our maleness and our manhood. That's not like you and I. There's no homoerotica in this situation, but it does have something to do with our genders and our sex. Why we have the connection that we do have. right? So it's not sexuality, but it is autonomy. It is autonomy. So even with me to say all of that, I've said that to him. Even when sometimes he sends me these videos, and showing that there are preachers that are now saying, oh yeah, y'all focus on the sin of this. I said, well, hold on. How much of that? What's the date on that? Because of course now you can preach that if you authentically and just accept that and be honest with that too. Because I'm not saying that I don't appreciate that you're saying it now, but I'm not also going to, just like I do with everything else that's institutionalized, I'm not also going to pretend like, well, if you really meant that in your heart and in your mind, you would have said that against unpopular belief. Now, I get that maybe because the construct that existed that you couldn't either, just like I couldn't really be who the fuck I wanted to be either, right? True enough. Right. But the difference is we had, those of us who are same gender loving and trans and everything, we still had to travail against that despite you one-upping it. So the people who've one-upped it and affirmed that despite everybody else when it wasn't popular, that's genuine, that's more sincere, and that's actually more powerful for me versus that, well, now the coast is clear for me to say this, I'm going to say this.
I get
so
that.
That's when I hear people say what this guy just said there, like is well, no, now, yes, you would never say that anything to hurt. Yeah, of course, with this camera and this podcast and everyone watching, of course you're not going to say that here. But what are your politics outside? What are your respectability? What is your social equity on that? What's your social political capital? What's your social capital on that? Right. How you would move. So, presentation is everything to a lot of people. Anything to say?
And he's proving your point, because again, presentation's everything, and that's exactly what he mentions. So when he's mentioning on one hand, okay, I can confirm that, yeah, this is how you guys want to present as male, fine, yeah. Then why does he keep bringing it back to, well, you're never gonna really be a whole man? Like, dude, like, stop. Ugh. Like, it's
because
tired,
because that's the only thing from, and I'm not, I'm just saying it, but not because
right.
Most of my friends are black males, same gender loving and heterosexual, but I also have friends from other nationalities that are not black males, right? But the majority of the people close to me are black people. You know what I'm saying? So, right. Or melanated or Negro or genophenotype people. It's one of those things to where, like, well, yeah, I can't not speak on this, because even that's one thing I tell people. I said, you know what, though? Most of the heterosexual black men in my life share the similar experience that see, you're able to hop on this panel, even though you have questions, things that are different. There's more of a camaraderie and a solidarity that we have because we've dealt with this toxicity from the black community on our side.
Right. And not only have I seen it, but I can almost vouch for being able to say, I've seen this interview before.
Yeah, me too. I watched it earlier today, but I wanted to I wanted to give people time to try to come in and schedule and stuff like that. Right, so I have really a good enough time. So this makes it so much wonderful that we're here discussing it and reviewing it together. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, since I've seen, racism to me, my wife's seen it herself. She's gone through it herself with me. Like, there's definitely something there. I hate that someone who's gone through that, seen that, and this black male is sitting here and now doing the same thing to others. You know what I'm saying? It's like, damn, like,
yeah, again, this white gay man is doing the same thing to other trans people, right? And the rainbow LGBTQ, right? That's y'all shit. He's doing the exact same thing to other people in trans of color and non of color. You see what I'm saying?
It's it's such a strange take to hear, because again, they are speaking for America. I ain't gonna lie, yeah, I see it now.
This is American patriarchy. This is American patriarchy. But patriarchy does kind of work in a lot of similar facets, unfortunately, when you deal with first world countries.
And I guess it's almost more sad for the conservative panel, if you will, because now it's like, hey, well, actually all four of you guys really kind of just you're still attacking this from a child's perspective. Okay, so what do you do about your pants though? So what do you do when you get naked though? What the fuck? Like there's more to it than that. And if there's not a further thought, then then there shouldn't be a conversation,
Right. And unfortunately, this is, despite me having interaction with white conservative straight men that are the exception, it isn't the rule. Mm-hmm. A lot of this is what indeed a lot of them do think.
Right.
The majority. So, because it shows up in their politics and what they vote for and what they value for and what they lobby for. But let us continue.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When you're in the streets, I don't care. It's not going to bother me that you want to. I would know unless I pulled your pants down or something. Wow.
Yes,
I said it. I caught it. It keeps trying to boil it down to that one thing, and I'm like, dude, that's not.
Yeah, the degeneracy and the over sexualization and violation of, and I get that's what we carry in our epigenetics of trauma, right? But see, I was raised by a black heterosexual man. And it's your responsibility to not, you could say, pass on the generational curse if you want to go esoteric, or not display insanity behavior. Do not carry or express. That goes back to that whole protection, because the irony, he's the one who brought up the statement of someone's in the house. See, what you just didn't do, what you said, it could have triggered. Because guess what? There are cisgendered heterosexual men who've had their butt slapped and their pants pulled down and been ridiculed in the locker room, who aren't even trans, because men that were heterosexual felt entitled to do so. Not so what they're gonna do to a woman if they feel comfortable doing that to other men. You see, you're not protecting people. You're not being protective of other people from yourself, because you're not dealing with that interpersonal trauma. You're not balancing that out, and you're trying to navigate through the pain. See, because you're only here because of your political view, not necessarily that the men see you as equal because you share the same political view.
Which and it's almost more strange because it's like, he's I called it. He's repeating shit he's heard, and because he's kind of trying to make this blank point of, oh well, what about your pants though? It's like, well, you're
gonna pull your pants. Let's pull your pants down. Like, why did you have to go?
He would have never done that if this were a panel of male to female. I don't think that would have happened. You see what I'm saying?
No, but that only But that only shows
it would have been more strange. But I think he would have been more reserved, though. You know what I'm saying? Because just with the presentation in general, I don't think he would have been that liberal to say it like that. He probably still would have said it though.
Not only heterosexual cis black men are murdering black women at 5.5 hours. If we get the reports and statistics on how many hours, I bet you the numbers of how many black men kill other black men, the frequency is higher than even that of when they kill black women. And 100%. It shows in the violation. See, all you're doing, despite you having the suit and the respectability politics, all you are showing is that trope of violation of human space. And here's the thing we got to also take to. See, he's saying that because he know also that they're not biologically male.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, he would not think to pull the pants down if that was actually biologically born male. Right. He feels comfortable saying that because 100%. It is actually female, because he knows they're biologically female, which only shows the trauma and the degeneracy that was passed down to you from your slave ancestry. Let us continue.
And before we go, what sucks even more is that really it's a YouTuber thing too. Like, it's not just a super trauma problem, but these fucking YouTubers that get numbers, he's just like them now. You see what I'm saying? And like the group Fresh and Fit come to mind. I fucking hate these cunts.
Me too.
But Fresh and Fit, they do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything boils down to the bare minimum of ignorance, but they become so ignorant, it becomes arrogant. That's
and
what. That's
and
where
it's
like,
not because I'm
you
jealous or
suck.
trying to get no crowd, but the fact that you got millions of subscribers only shows why we could say most, and that's why we don't need a not all and not the exception. No, that's why we can say the majority, my nigga. Let us
100%.
continue.
Yep.
Do you feel like you have to present the way you do? You know, facial hair. Could you be a man without having facial hair?
I mean, yeah.
Because you feel like you're a man.
I'm in the early stages of testosterone. Haven't hit 1 year.
Yeah, but there are men who are the same way about not just trans men. There are men who don't feel as confident, motherfucker, without having a facial hair. I like my fucking work. My lover Chris, we're both male. We both identify as the same. The gender construct of our birth outside of the traditional roles of sexuality. And I love when that man grows his shit out and he let it get all thick and wild. And for me, as myself, I even feel more confident. I'd rather have a beard that's not tame than to not have one at all.
And you know, I know a couple of friends of mine. They're they're heterosexual. They're more.
That ain't
Indian,
a trans man thing. That's just a man thing.
And even with heterosexual males that are from an Indian descent, they don't. Their beard never connects. They're just period. Real deal Indians. They're and like Native Americans. They don't have facial hair. So when they mix, and now we have this amalgamation that is the people that are walking around now. They may be mixed with all types of stuff, and I'm telling you, I've seen it. I got this one guy, I promise you, man, he cannot grow sideburns at all to save his life.
It's the same thing with certain regions of Africa. Not all of Africa, but when you go to West Africa, but now when you go more North African and you get into the Denisovan haplogroup and the people who look like Sade because they're African, they're not mixed. You see what I'm saying? There are different variations because that's true with even some indigenous African countries and tribes and haplogroups. You know what I'm saying? Like the people of Benin, they don't grow no hair.
Right. And
So,
same thing with the people in Senegal. They have the colored eyes, soft textured hair, super super dark, but they're men. They do not grow. They don't grow the full beard. They can grow a goatee. They can get long sideburns, but it'll never connect. So I mean, it's not just I'm trying to present as man and I'm gonna construct this facial hair just because I want to do it. Again, if any man can attest to it, it's the men that are sitting across asking a dumbass question. Half the men that are sitting across there have facial hair out of choice because it naturally grows that way.
Right. Or they did things and even
just to
kind of the gay white man, which
he doesn't want to do that. But even with that, they've made a choice on how they're going to present in their suits and how they're sitting there. Now, if they want to present as male, it just makes sense to have facial hair. This is not a fucking hard question to get around. It
shows the lack of intellectual depth,
right?
That people stereotype black men for, especially heterosexual black men. Let us continue.
And it takes it from ignorance to arrogance. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, hey, that's a word.
1 year yet, but personally for me, I crave, having a full-on beard like these fine gentlemen and you guys are. Like I crave it, but I do believe not having this little small piece I have going on, it does make me feel more dysphoric. It makes me feel this is how I presented before transitioning.
Do you feel like it's something that has gone wrong at birth? You're born and you say, well, genetics and evolution says this. Why do I feel like this?
I think questioning it was something that I always wondered because sometimes people say it was a choice, which I hear a lot on the other side all the time. It was a choice. I was legit born this way. I could remember from I think 4 or 5 years old where I didn't feel like a girl. You know what I mean? And I can't tell you why that happened. It was just my path in this life. And it's something that I honored, and it was really hard for me to continue, especially when puberty hit. Time of month comes in, obviously anatomy changes, and that was the biggest thing for me where I knew that okay, I can't do this. It's you're not in your own home.
Children should be allowed to transition?
Well, I was gonna say I find it very interesting that you and I are the only ones that stepped up, especially since.
Okay, so the only people that stepped up, y'all, was the younger trans man who just started taking hormones.
For younger and puberty hit, you know, like you should allow children to feel what they feel, because I felt the way.
They're both the Hispanic trans men.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go as to why.
That I felt for as long as I can remember, and it's something that I cannot deny.
Yeah.
You know, although my mother is supportive, when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to wear boys' clothes because that wasn't right. Now I know we're talking about transitioning. It doesn't always have to be hormones. It's like transitioning in society. So being able to dress more masculine.
Yeah.
I did when I was younger, but as I got into middle school, kids change. People are mean. So, you know, I dressed how I would in society. So I dress like a girl, whatever. But I think that children should be allowed to express themselves in whatever way makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah. Kids are struggling to be who they are, and there's more rates of suicide for trans individuals because there's literally being laws put in place to prevent them from being who they are, and that's not right. That's not right.
Oh shit.
Okay, so I work with children. This is where I have like the biggest problem with the trans stuff is with the children, because people, like I'm sure you guys would agree, you want to inject them with the hormones to stop their puberty, the normal puberty. They haven't even developed the prefrontal cortex yet, and you want to stop their natural puberty from occurring to affirm their gender, and then later on they regret it. I think that's not a good thing.
See, that's why
Here's the thing about that scenario. There are not as many people saying that they are detransitioning that are transitioning that go on. And I don't think it's the fear of, I call a cop-out, I call that's performative concern. And I've had this conversation before. You're really not concerned about the detransition, that you are more concerned about the transition. You care more about the transition than the detransition. You don't really care if they make that choice and they forget. You care if they're making that choice from the initial start. And that's where, for me, that's a performative, that's a political move. You don't really care that they're going to regret that. Now, here's one thing I will agree on, because we're going to listen to what they have to say. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with giving them those type of drugs until you get a certain point after development. I think that, in which they're going to talk about, like people did with Big Frida and Katie Red and all them people that I also grew up in New Orleans that are not famous, when people reaffirm and let you just be who you are, without people ignoring that creates a different type of experience. I'm not saying people still won't express the way that they express physically, but intrapersonally, internally, physically, and psychologically, that's gonna give that person a balance. Because also too, what my father even taught me, the way that we have this communicative thing and we are able to vibe and be loving and respectful and honest with each other, I want you to also understand that's not the world.
Right 100%.
That's not outside these doors. I have to show you and prepare you how to function. But just because that's the case, that doesn't mean that it's my duty. He said, I give a damn and hug you and kiss you before you go every day, because something could happen to you when you leave those doors. But I also understand when you leave those doors, that's not promised to you. It's my job to give you that.
Right. But I think that type of unconditional love gets thrown out the window, because now people do want to make that political move, the next TikTok video. They want to have the next viral video where they're protesting on one side or the other. I really don't even think there's real sides. I'm sitting here wondering, okay, a lot of this has to be set up 100%. But even with what we're seeing, on in the media or online, even with what we're seeing, I haven't seen kids really being placed in a very in a situation where I'm like, okay, hold on, whoa, let's save the children here. If it's just reading a book, it's reading a book. Read the book.
Right.
Read the fucking book. at least people are reading to the kids who
right. See, exactly.
If you don't like it, you go read then,
because we can agree, because yes, you should not be doing anything sexual in any direction and any gender expression to children who are not, and even if they're going through puberty, that doesn't mean that you over sexualize them. That means you educate them in the context of that, not impose which direction you should go, because there are more.
Even with like sex ed or whatever, you got to get permission slips from the parents. I've seen it, like most.
And I had to too, and I agree with that. I don't think you should. Yes, I think it should be the parents' discretion to choose if they want that to be chosen. Now, will I agree that that's always the best choice? No, but I also understand that that's people's choice. But it goes the same way though too now. Just like you're gonna instill that for them in this house, that when they step outside those doors, that's not gonna necessarily be reaffirming of that. And that's the real problem what people have here. Let us continue.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this is a loaded question, because transition can mean many things for children. Now, I totally, as a transsexual person, disagree with giving children hormone blockers, medication, surgery. But what I do agree with is socially transitioning, which means what? Because I did that, okay? And I did that in the 60s and 70s. My parents dressed me like fuck. I was a boy. I didn't have any problems because I just lived, we used to call it a tomboy, right? So that was totally, and I went through puberty and I did all the things. I do not believe children can make those choices, and I do not believe it's okay and ethical for a parent to make those choices for a child. But I do believe gender dysphoria exists in children. I had it, 100% it's there. But to give medication to a child.
No, he's the only trans man and I do agree with him.
I think this is the best take, 100%.
This is the best take.
Best take.
The older white trans man who I totally agree. I forgot his name. Buck. Yeah, I totally agree with Buck. Thank you. I totally agree with Buck. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, he's the only trans man, and I would totally agree with him. And the other heterosexual men that are on the panel.
The one thing I keep noticing from all four of them, from what I'm noticing from all four of them, they did hit puberty first before making any decisions of medication, things like that. So really, this is definitely the best group to have talking on that. And if these guys are going to have any questions of, you guys support this or don't support that, most trans people don't support that. They don't. Yeah,
but the ones that do, it's within a certain reason. It's the context of like they're going to say,
right.
It's at least see me for who I am, and you don't oppress me to not be able to express myself. Not when I show you that it's not just a phase, and I'm asking you, and if you beat it out of me, then you're teaching me to curl up and all these other things, and repress and everything like that. So you're gonna create a Jeffrey Dahmer. I said what I said. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
You're gonna create a Jeffrey Dahmer. You know what I'm
saying? Buck kind of mentioned it by saying, ethically, no, I wouldn't agree with that. That's where everything went out the door. Where the fuck are the ethics on some real shit? You know what I'm saying? Because apparently there are, conservative stories where they're like, these certain clinics, medical clinics, they're making money on doing these surgeries for double mastectomies on teenagers. Turns out that's actually not true. It's a college, so these are people who are above 18, things like that. They're making their own medical choices. These 18, 20 somethings, yes, they are getting mastectomies, but a lot of them are doing it because they were either in a health class where they found out more information about possible breast cancer and issues with breast cancer. So a lot of people do it as a preventative. That's not talked about. The other part of the argument that I heard that I debunked on my own, any type of bottom surgery for children. That's a huge no-no up front.
Yeah, no one's gonna do that anywhere in the world.
No doctor, yo, fuck you. In America, they don't even give you your own stem cells. You mean to tell me a kid is gonna walk in and get a procedure? Get the fuck out of my face.
Come on, yeah,
get out of my face. That's total bullshit.
It's performative. That's what I'm saying. It's a disingenuous concern.
Right.
It's something that you're using as a social political talking point. It's not a genuine.
I will say this. For the wild parents that are making that crazy decision to just force their child to get a surgery that they don't need, that's a fucking CPS.
Yes,
that's a Child Protective Services got to walk in on that. That's a DHS issue.
Yes,
but all those systems already exist.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade, he's not doing that to Zaya.
Right, exactly.
She's not talking about no surgery or anything. He's just doing what some of these people are going to do, which I think is beautiful because it's still a black fucking family. It's a husband, it's a wife, it's 2 children. He's not focusing on her gender identity or alienating her from being in the family fucking portrait. And the nerve of most black people to have a nerve to say they have a problem with that. Yeah, you have a problem with that, nigga, because your daddy ain't even in the family photo.
And the whole thing with the whole D Wade taking a picture of his kid or whatever, plain and simple, he's gonna take pictures with his family. Get the fuck over it.
And this ain't no. And here's the thing: she is a minor, but she is not a kid.
Right.
She is puberty. She's going through things. This is the time for people to start going through this. She can't make all the decisions for herself. No, but biologically,
that's where it becomes political because he's in sports. Yeah, he has a family, and yeah, he does make some hot takes. I say that I will agree, but with the hot takes aside, they're making it political because of the way that they're portraying it on TV. It has nothing to do with whatever's going on in the Wade household or whatever's going on in your household. Like that doesn't; those two things don't matter. But you're being told something different. This is it's a mass manipulation on some real shit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. So yeah, see, and because here's the gag, and I think it's I'm gonna just go there for a second. It's jealousy too, because here most of y'all that are even heterosexual and you don't know what that support is to have anything that's a male in your life like that.
True, 100%.
You don't know what that.
And when seeing that super support, they have to hate it.
Especially your father,
right?
Who are your biological, not in heaven. Let me.
People do have a problem with that for real.
You're part of that. You're projecting. That's what you're mad about too. Let me continue.
Very true.
Is so unethical to me that you would actually, exactly what you said, you're stunting brain growth, you're stunting all of these things. I don't have enough research on it. So I'm in agreement with transitioning medically for children is not okay for me, but I do believe in a social space.
When you say a social transition, it's interesting to me because we can't control what happens in a social situation.
That's right.
So to me, and we talked about suicide rates among young trans people, this whole ideology is telling people to derive their value off of what somebody else is saying about them or what somebody else affirms to them. So we say that, society is the problem and we're not allowing people to be who they are and that's why they're committing suicide. But maybe it has to do with the messaging that we're sending to these kids, that you derive your value from if somebody uses your correct pronoun, or you derive your value if this person accepts you for wearing a dress. Be who you are, but tell them to be empowered about it and not get that empowerment from somebody else.
I feel like that's really...
First time I agree with him.
Yeah, but see, this is the white gay man that's saying this. Like, no,
he's somewhat on.
No, because did you grow up new wrinkle on the brain where people, because see, your sexuality and your gender expression happen to go with the patriarchal construct.
100%. But I mean, remember, I was a military kid, so.
Gay
didn't fly in the military then, you know what I'm saying?
I'm meaning outside of a racial, but in the sense of when it comes to your sexuality and your gender, did you have anything that went against like that, like in the sense of people not reaffirming that, not people mistaking you for being gay because you are intelligent? I'm saying in the sense of there was no truth into that. So yes, it still hurts you in the sense of being mislabeled like that. But I think there's what he's saying with that, again, he's the wrong person to say that. Notice that the other, it would be more make sense for me for a heterosexual white or black man to say that versus the white gay conservative man to say that, because again,
it's like the words are coming out of the wrong people on this shit.
Yeah, it's like, again,
what the hell?
You had to be reaffirmed through the Lavender Act. You had to be reaffirmed because of Stonewall. You had to be reaffirmed to be able, you're not sitting here because your own inhibition to speak freely, especially as general a white man, but especially a gay man.
White gay conservative at that, dude.
Yeah, well, yeah,
that
and
was,
I get
that's extreme. That would be extreme years ago. You know?
That's more to do with his whiteness than his gayness, and that's why I tell people not to say that there's an excuse to where you should overlook toxicity, but in the sense of color of law and nationality, your race is going to be more of the weight of your experience, regardless if yes, because you are queer or gay or transgender, especially when you're black. Your sexuality is going to be the most consequential thing that happens to you within your black community versus everything else outside of that is going to have more to do with you being black. And I'm not going to say that it can't be the other way, but I'm just going to go out and say that, well, yeah, your discriminatory practice mostly comes from your blackness of that, but your discriminatory because of your gayness or your queerness or your sexuality is something you mostly have to deal with within your black community.
Which is so strange. Again, it's like he's fighting what he's getting mad at.
Yeah, but he's white. But here's the thing. But it's not strange though, because
he's following this.
He's a white gay. He's a white gay man. So on top of all of the agendas and everything that the LGBTQ move, even to the detriment or dislike of the other heterosexual white men, he's in a different position of power than even them.
So really, we can call that a privilege, white privilege plus one.
Yes.
Yeah.
White privilege plus. Let us continue, because because that bullshit. Let me shut up.
Kind of inconsiderate to say that someone would take their life because what someone else says. To somebody, that is important. To somebody, I know, have friends who their family does not use the correct pronouns. They've transitioned. They live in the same household. This person struggles with depression and anxiety. Could you imagine living in an environment like that where you're no longer validated? That's coming from your own parents.
But if you base your validation off of other people, this is a hard truth. But if you're still validating,
you definitely have to do it. Listen, I
see. You hear how he's saying that? Let me continue.
People, when things on me, I do what I want. But for everyone, that's not the case because everybody has different personalities.
Right, but that doesn't make it any. That doesn't mean that.
But still, what you're not acknowledging, what you're not acknowledging though, is that in that environment, it is not supported.
I'm acknowledging that. I'm just saying that we're saying that for some reason they should look for that validation from somebody else.
When you love somebody and you have family, you want them to.
You're focusing not on the individual. You're focusing on the people outside of that individual. You're focusing on empowering that individual.
Using the word valid.
You don't need to be validated.
What you said?
This Jacob character, he messed up using the word valid.
Well, you have validation because again, you're here through validation through your whiteness, your maleness, and your queerness. Because lest we forget, the LGBTQ consists of mostly the influence of white Americans, and we're only used. And I'm going to say this as a same gender loving Black American: we're only used to represent what diversity it looks like. We're not represented in politics and representations of the narrative. So yes, of course, I am not. Now you might not be surprised because you probably see, because what I was going to say earlier. I said, yeah, well, this is that bullshit intersectionality. The fact that Black Americans, descendants of Negroes and colors, thought that it was okay to include white heterosexual women as an oppressed group, despite the advantage. Yes, because of her gender among other white people. It's the same thing for same gender loving white people as it is for white women. gripe isn't they don't have intersectionality because they are in the interest of other people. They're mostly doing that for the interest and writing off the coattails of civil rights and of affirmative action of descendants of Negroes and colors. Because let's be real, before that, this language was created, before there was the 1965 Immigration Acts. It was the Negroes and colors that made that more descendant Americans that made that more palatable from the beginning, right? So this is what I'm saying with this. It's the same type of entitled Me Too chess move and move that he has the same pathology, except it's worse with him because he's actually a white male. And that's why the toxic patriarchy works for him, especially if there's a way for him, because see, he could have engaged in his homosexuality and not chose to be. He's only doing that now because of the reason of how cool it is and acceptable based off of people who did fight against that of all different races. But it was other people of color that were queer and trans, but you're only going to hear about the white ones.
And see, and I guess my thing was the only reason I would have avoided using the word validation there is because it opens up that trauma thing again. Who has more trauma? Oh, well, we want validation. Well, then now the gay dude would be like, well, we want validation too. You see what I'm saying? So just
you already got your validation, but
right.
but you know, he shares
and that's how he's playing it. Like that's how that dude's playing it. Like he wanted that back and forth, you know.
He already got his validation he doesn't care about what happens to any other group of people. Him as a white, identified as cisgendered male or biological male, all he wanted was the validation of being able to be who he was. He wants to still be his gender. He still wants to have white supremacy. He still wants to have white privilege. Right. He still has that. He wants to have all of that, and he wants his cake and eat it too. And since he got it, of course, he don't give a fuck about no person of color or no trans person of color. He don't even give a fuck about any white person that's trans.
Nope. That
he only gives a fuck
him.
About white male identified gay men that also plays in the role of toxic patriarchy. Let us
and that's definitely a classism thing, because I can guarantee it. You know, just based on that's a classism thing for real.
Yeah, it's classism as well. We can actually throw that in there too. Let us continue.
Yeah.
Ever in your life? From your family or your friends?
I get my validation from within, and then
if we're talking about children, okay, if we're talking, I was an 8-year-old when I found out that I wasn't biologically male, right? I was 8.
Hold on.
Yeah, let's say them ads, man. Wrong time.
When I found out that I wasn't the same as my brothers. Okay, and so going through that process, I attempted suicide 4 times because my mother was like, "Well, you are a girl. When you're 8 and you're 12 and you don't have anyone else that is in your space, when you don't have anyone else that lives in the same house as you to tell you you're okay, where are you supposed to go? How are you supposed to garner your own self-validation if the people that are raising you don't validate who you are?"
As a father, you know, my duty is to raise my children the way I believe is right. And if my child somehow struggles with this, which is fine, we'll have that conversation. But I'm going to let it play out the way I believe it should be played out. And at 18 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to wear dresses, that's fine. I mean, just wearing it. If you want to dress like a boy, don't make you want to be a boy. Don't mean you have to be a boy. My mom was a tomboy, and my mom had me and my brother, and she's a woman, you know, and she lives like that. But, you know, you may want to dress a little different.
Now, there's something, that's one thing he also said, that, yes, that's a reasonable thing, because he's not wrong for saying that, but again, there's a nuance and a context to that. Because if your child is constantly saying that, so what you're basically saying, I'm going to repress my child till they're 18 because it makes me more comfortable to deal with them as who I want them to be instead of who they are.
That's what I'm hearing. Right? That's what I'm hearing. Right? And they don't get freedom until they're 18. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. So that also that you're creating your Black Jeffrey Dahmer. Let us continue.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a boy want to do cheerleading.
Wait, you're biracial Jeffrey Dahmer. I forgot his wife is white. No shade. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Something like that. Okay. But that don't mean you need to transition to something else. So I want that to play out until my child is old enough to make that decision on their own. Also, you have to teach your children to have balance.
He's also saying, you know, I'm being fair here, that yeah, because he said that even if my male child wants to be a cheerleader, that doesn't mean that you have to transgender. Absolutely. Because I've been on panels through nonprofit, going to schools, and I stressed that point. I wasn't going to go there and say some superficial, shallow shit like I heard some, you know, trans people do, you know, and gay people do. I was like, no, look, I'm here to tell you, look, my creation, I'm a musician, I'm a singer, I had to sing a little opera for them and everything, but I was just like, I don't want people, from a person who is same gender loving, I'm going to tell you that your interest doesn't denote your sexuality. So you can be in the arts. You can be, this does not make you LGBTQ. I'm saying this as a person who is same gender loving. 100%. You know, because that is a gender, that's a social construct. So I left the children with that because we were all able to present individually. And I was, you know what I'm saying, there was a black gay man, there was a white trans woman. She got on my fucking nerves what she said to them kids. And it was myself, and it was a lesbian woman, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican American, because we in South Texas, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of them things where, you know, I appreciate at least for him saying that, okay, well, look, I could be cool if you express yourself. That don't mean, because for some people, that's why you do have people that are, regardless if they're not trans, they're repressed, even if they're completely heterosexual, because they cannot express themselves in a way that goes with them and what they feel and resonate with. And
I think that happens more than people talk about.
Saying that he would allow, I might not go with the whole trans thing, but within reason, if you want to do things that are not traditionally gender role interests, that I appreciate at least that compromise.
Come here.
Because if you just want mommy and daddy to acquiesce to everything you want, that's not reality. You have to understand that mom and dad may not see me this way.
Yeah, and that's true too. Your mom and dad, but you also got to understand too, because see, you're having this, let me just put some context. You're not having this conversation because, especially in your scenario, it's not the fact that you're here because you could ultimately influence what mommy and daddy says. You're having this conversation because you know when that child is, despite what you say, with your views and opinions, there's going to be an expression of that outside of what the fuck that you think is thus says the Lord.
No, what actually makes it more, he's showing his arrogance here, but he's also highlighting his inner ignorance on children. He's a new father, so this whole authoritarian, when I have kids, I'm gonna tell them this, I'm gonna all these I'm gonna's, yo, shut the fuck up, my nigga. Guess what? It's gonna change, my homie. That's just gonna change real quick.
Was his father there?
Yeah. I think I want to say when this thing airs, he's probably like, maybe his kids are like a year, maybe.
No, I mean, Brandon, does he speak? He said his father was there for him.
He speaks on it somewhat, but he really focuses on his mom.
Oh, so
big time.
He focuses on his mom because he really can't focus on his father because his father wasn't there for him to focus on. Got it. Let me continue.
And even more to that point, apparently his father wasn't all that good of a guy, so that's why he became a cop.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's clear. It's clear where he's at.
Yeah. So you think, okay, go ahead. Let me continue.
They love me. I see myself this way, and I disagree with how they speak to me or how they're, but I love them as well. I love, like my son, if he said that he was, and I'm a Christian and I don't believe in homosexuality. I don't. I respect anybody that feel that way. I never, protest you at all. If my son came to me, it would be a struggle for me to want to go to his wedding. I'm just going to be honest. But I think that my son should understand this is the way my dad feel. I love him. This is the way I feel, and we have mutual love. And that don't mean I hate you. They just mean we disagree. And I wish that same sentiment would be, and I think it's the same on this panel. Like, there's no hate in any of this. Right. I love every single person on this side.
But you can't expect your child before adulthood to be that mature to navigate that. They're only going to navigate that space based off of how you present and navigate with them. So you can't expect your child, especially under the age, even after 18, you can't expect them to navigate that. that's your responsibility to show them you have to be that of what you're saying. So you have to make sure that you're doing that on both sides, which I don't.
I 100% hate how he contradicts himself as well. Like he mentions, as a Christian, this I'm a Christian, this I'm a Christian, that. Well, if you're a Christian, then you shouldn't give a fuck what the fucking wedding is on some real shit.
Oh no, yes you should. Here's the thing, yes, because and that's another conversation. I'm gonna just go there for a second. People seem to that's historical context. Remember, the same people who gave you monotheism, Catholicism, and Christianity are the same people who deemed you 3/5 of a person, and they used the Bible to back it up in Genesis that let God created man and woman to have every dominion over every beast and creature of the field, and you are considered 3/5 of a person and 3/5 of a person. So keep in mind,
that's where the authoritarian comes from.
The vibration of that type of pathology isn't just him. It's very much more. It's white men, definitely. But since he's adopted the spiritual belief and the political views, that is also the mind frame that he carries subconsciously. And it comes through in consciousness when he says what he says now.
And we may think of things differently, but we love each other. It can't be one-sided.
I am lucky. I'm 41, and I'm a trans man. One of my greatest fears as a trans man is my life being taken from me because I'm a trans man. Transitioning in a black neighborhood with gang members as neighbors, they weren't having that. So the more that my body started to look a lot like theirs, I was challenged on a regular basis. I was beaten up because someone recognized me from prior to my transition and approached me and confronted me and called me a liar and told me I was a bitch. And I, out of safety, was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they cold cocked me and I lost the front tooth.
Now, this is the Black American trans man. Remember what I was saying earlier? Despite him transitioning, didn't stop him from having to deal with the pathological violence that comes from the Black American community that's been conditioned, regardless if you're same gender loving, trans, or hetero homosexual, when it comes to certain things that have been conducive and planted. And I'm not making an excuse to continue the behavior either, but it also does play a role of, notice the difference out of everybody that's trans on that planet. You see the extreme difference of the Black American experience that he experienced. Right. See, that's what I said when I said earlier, your gayness, your queerness, your transness expression is more consequential to you amongst Black people. However, you being Black everywhere else outside that nuance is going to be the most consequential effect of your experience as well. And sometimes, yes, and in conjunction with your queerness as well.
And what I'm also, I can also kind of, I guess, speak to where this person's coming from. The Black community has been just manipulated to eat itself when anyone of its community becomes of any type of celebrity, in any movement upwards. If they're smart, intelligent, and they speak well, they're fucking hated. The only time it didn't happen was Obama, and even then, Obama still gets called Barry Soetoro. So I mean, there's a whole situation of, even when you do reach the highest position in the land, the fucking biggest job in the whole world, being president of the United States, even that doesn't take away that ism that Black people have against their own people. And I mean, I've seen it just by speaking the way I do, because I'm not using the slang.
You use a certain vernacular,
stuff,
But there's also, yes, there is that part of it, but there's also this too. There is the nuance that there are a bunch of people who do speak and they say they represent the overwhelming majority of Black people, but they live in the exception and they live in other spaces and other ways that are not with the concerns of the people that they say that they represent and value their social capital from either. So
there's a couple people I can name doing that.
Yeah, so because I agree with you. The vernacular, the interests that we should have, we should uplift and elevate those things that are more controlled, like technology and industry and all those different things. But also keep in mind, when we had that infrastructure, and I'm not making an excuse, the U.S. government found it legal to do what they do to institutionalize that and come against you through even with the aiding of force, right?
If anyone's listening, you can always check out the original Black Wall Street. I did a podcast on that about a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
and
drop your link. Make sure you drop your link of your podcast and your information in the chat box, so people who want to follow you and listen can also do that as well.
I can do that. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying. So it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, like, you know, it's really showing the layers of the. That's why I keep saying system and institutionalized. I've always said, let us continue.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because this is a
I
perfect
grew
example.
up with a positive father figure.
Let's say that one more time.
What do you think
Them ads, boy. they hit at the worst time. Like, shit.
Right.
My transition, and approached me and confronted me and called me a liar and told me I was a bitch. And I, out of safety, was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they cold cocked me, and I lost the front tooth.
I grew up with a positive father figure.
This is good. Yeah, I think.
Now, everybody sit down. So, you know, I'm glad to hear that, because even this, again, might be, it's debatable if this, I'm going to say that this is still the exception, especially being in a room with many different men. But it really depends now, but it's going to vary. Not all of these good father figures are the traditional, that was my biological father, and you're going to hear that. Hello?
No, I'm still here with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to hear that, you know, everyone who's listening, that, so it's, I'm not trying to diminish, because I want people who are not the biological father of children to play these roles. But also I want to point out that these are not all experiences that went through the same nuclear family formula. Okay, so let us play.
I think for me it's surprising, because I would believe that a woman who, or a person who's born as a woman who now identifies as a man, didn't have a positive role model as a man, and therefore they felt somewhat insecure as a woman, which makes them, you know, feel a certain way and want to be a certain different person. Maybe they want to be the man that their father never was, or whatever the case may be. And so it was very interesting. I mean, being honest, it was interesting to see pretty much a majority of you guys come forward.
That's so great. I think that's really important that you say that, because I do think a lot of people probably feel that way about guys like me, right? That our fathers we didn't have the right upbringing. Or my father was amazing. I grew up really like a little boy. I always felt like a little boy. My parents actually raised me.
I'm not saying that, but see, that was Brandon, the Black American cisgender. Notice that the question was, did you have a positive male figure in your life? See, what he chose to do is not answer that question specifically directly from his experiences. He chose to focus on them.
You saw that, right? You saw I'm kind of like avoid that. Like,
yes.
At all costs. He didn't say anything. Yes. He made damn sure he didn't bring up himself.
Yes. So I just want to point that out to the people who's listening, not looking. Let me continue.
59 years old. So that was in the 60s and the 70s when we didn't even talk about this kind of stuff. But my parents actually felt it from me. So I think that that's a misconception that people think about people like us.
Any good father pushes their child to, one, be, you know, feel self-love, and to feel like they can be who they want, do what they want, and, you know, have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Like our founding fathers. And so, you know, it's...
Now, despite the founding fathers part, out of my opinion, I think he's the most genuine. The guy with the red hair.
Yeah, he's kind of like the most level.
I think he's the most level and genuine. I got to remember his name. I'll go back. But the guy that's speaking now, I can sense, even I can tell his differences is not fully understanding everything. But in his language, I can hear that, and not just his delivery. I'm watching his body language. I can see he's really thinking. Like how he's like, despite the other men, I can, and I'm not saying they're not thinking because you can't see it on his face, but at least he's showing that enough body language that he's processing what he's saying.
And even in the way that he builds the words that he's saying, what comes out is an open-ended question. He's not sitting there making this hard statement and waiting for the other side to rebuttal him. You know what I'm saying? He's always saying something that opens up to another beautiful thing, which is a great example of communication. He's communicates amazing, but I'm noticing that with all the other guys on the panel, especially the gay dude, he's constantly making these short, closed-ended statements that he's more aggressive, you know, like more like, hey, prove me wrong, you know?
Yeah.
It's fatherlessness, or having a missing dad, is one, a pandemic on its own, and it's one that obviously I'm sure Brian can attest to. It's so critical to have a father in the house, because kids get lost when they don't have one.
Kids get lost when if they had fathers like you, they're gonna get lost and be confused if you're going against them. And that's one thing that patriarchy does. It gives all men this disillusional that everything is better because you're there. What are you again? If you're procreating things and you're procreating people and not cultivating them, that's the problem. And if you're cultivating them under toxicity, that's what you're going to cultivate. So children can get lost. Children can get lost, not just because what you do in the household. Again, they're going to have experiences outside of your household. But if you are the one that's perpetuating their confusion and invalidation and not giving them the best advice of who they are and not what you want them to be, because yes, you have a responsibility, but how much of that is ego of you want to project of what you think is best versus, because sweetheart, didn't you have your life? Isn't then the extension of your life? Okay, well, your individual choices went to leading them and having to be responsible for them. If you really left your mark and did something to make yourself, you don't need to vicariously live through your children, because like my daddy, and I didn't mention this to the panel, you know what I'm saying? I'm a product of a 60-year-old man and a 47-year-old woman. My mother and father were married. They were not trying to have me. They were fucking. They already have children and grandchildren, adult children in their 30s. Right? But I'm a product of a single father. My father died when I was 6. My father did not need me to do, because in his maturity, he did not need me to do him. He understood I've already came to the point where I've made my decisions. My best thing now is to help you navigate these things to the best of my ability. But he didn't repress me either. And he allowed me to be within reason, right, with his guidance of not oppression, but with his rules, with his guidance, with his intelligence, with his reference. He cultivated me to who you hear today. And did a great job. And he knew who I was. So I have the exception. And then let me just say this too. Just because I have the exception, because I hear a lot of men, they have this conversation. What type of man are you to let a bunch of lame dick niggas who ain't there for their children speak as if they're your motherfucking pappy? I'm not gonna disrespect my daddy for you niggas by putting you on anywhere the same levels and let you, because I had a father, you think that he represented you niggas? No, I'm not gonna disrespect my daddy's legacy like that.
There you go.
Let me continue.
And having a father that's loving and strong and someone you can rely on is, the reason why, we're all comfortable with who we are.
I had several different father figures like in my life. So it wasn't, I had a dad, but then I had my grandfather and I had my uncle. It takes a village to raise a child, right? But all of those different perspectives raised me as a well-rounded.
Take notice, this is the Black American trans man. Let me continue.
Human, if we take the masculinity out of it, just as a human, I got to see different perspectives. And so now as a father that has given birth to a child, and that child being a male, right, I'm able to raise him with those same ideals that I'm able to identify because of the father figures that I had.
I didn't have my father growing up. He was not present in my life at all. So it showed me that some men can step up, like my grandfather and my stepfather, who have taken me in and showed me how to take care of myself, how to be.
That's still in his family. This is the Hispanic, Latino, I don't know what nationality. He's like, he could either be Mexicano, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but he's more Mexicano than anything, honestly.
Right.
some Spanish admixture, but he looks more Chicano. Well, yeah,
Maybe
he looks like a hybrid. But either
right.
way, it goes.
There looks something going on.
Yeah. He looks a little bit of mixture of Spanish and Chicano. You know what I'm saying? So, but still, I'm just pointing this out. That's what I said earlier, that not everybody here followed the patriarchal nuclear family. You know what I'm saying? So that had male figures. I'm not trying to invalidate and say that they're not authentic, but just pay attention. I'm bringing it up because these are the same men that uphold patriarchy and a lot of other standards when they want to see things, but they're also not going to see it as critical or see it as accepting and compromising when it works for other ways to represent their maleness.
I agree.
You know, strong and dependable, and all I've been.
I'm sorry, what you want to expound?
Say again?
Expound the wrinkle in the brain?
No, you're good. You're good. You can go. You can continue.
We're almost done with this video.
Give more love to all people that I interact with. Right. So it was really important for me to have those figures.
I think this is a really important thing to show people that are watching this, because a lot of times I feel like we can blame any issues in society or anything that arises on the generation that came before us. So any issues that arise in our society, it's like there's not always a reason why it's happening. We just need to address the issue and solve it.
I grew up with all women.
Yeah, but you can't address the issue and solve it without defining the reason. And of course, this is the language I would expect from a white, same gender. I don't give a damn if it's a white, same gender loving man or a heterosexual man. I would expect this type of language because let me fix the problem without holding accountable the root of what this issue is. Because I know as a white man, regardless of my sexuality, I'm still a white man. I'm still the descent of Europeans, colonialists. I understand that I don't really want to address or have that view because then I'll have to give up what makes me comfortable in America.
And that's definitely an elitist and classist view for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not saying all heterosexual white men, but I'm going to say a majority. Okay.
He's definitely letting his classism show.
Yeah. And his classism is definitely showing, regardless of him being part of the alphabet soup community. Let me continue.
Right.
My parents are divorced and I live with my mom. I have my aunts. So I was raised by women, but my dad was there sometimes, and then my stepdad took me in as his own. So I had my stepdad as a father figure.
I grew up with all women as well. My mom used to tell me I have to be your mom and your dad. So like there would be times where I got both. Like she was super sweet with me or really strict on me, and like she taught me a lot as well. Like growing up with women, it taught me a lot of vulnerability.
So he did not really have. No, he said his grandparents. I forgot. Yeah.
Right.
So he still had the men of his bloodline and his lineage in his life.
Right.
Very different from someone that does it, that if it's just based off of the dating choices of your mother. Let me just point that out.
True.
You were talking to you, I was like, I relate to you very well. But yeah.
I'm Jacob. I'm 27 years old, and I'm a trans man. So the relation with my dad and how unsupportive he is has been a challenge for me, but it's something that I've learned to grow past. And I encourage everyone that even if you don't have a parent who is supportive, to still be authentically yourself, because your life is meant to be lived for you. And I think that choosing my happiness above all else has made my life that much better, and I wouldn't change anything. Even though he wasn't supportive, I still wouldn't have him here.
Listening to all your guys' points, I would definitely say, yeah, I did have a father figure. He was in the Marines, and he has this very toxic masculinity mindset, a lot of anger built up that I can definitely tell he suppressed, in the Marines, because that's what he was taught to do. That's what the Marines are about. He always carried that with him, and I think that's what he tried to instill in me and my siblings at a very young age, which made it hard for me to be vulnerable with myself. And I just saw a lot of anger issues that were, very violent sometimes. And since coming out as trans, I feel like he's been more willing to understand me more and trying to figure out who I am as a person. And because of that, I feel like our relationship has definitely got a lot stronger since then.
I can't imagine to come home and then try to be vulnerable after suppressing so much pain and hurt for years. So it's good to hear that, he's learning and kind of evolving and opening up. That's something where, you guys were talking about vulnerability, right? And it's like, there's times when it's good to be hard.
I don't show emotion as much as I'd like.
I definitely have sensed and noticed since transitioning that being on testosterone has made me cry less, which is
No, and I'm not trying to pick on Brandon, but I don't show emotion as much as I like. So he's saying that he would not like to show emotions. He has those emotions, but he doesn't want to show them. But he wants his family to show their emotions to him, or maybe not.
That's kind of what he mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's what he mentioned
right?
earlier.
Remember, they have to be forthcoming to me because I protect them. Is something to that effect.
Yeah, it's toxic.
very interesting because I believe that before I transitioned and started taking testosterone, I feel like not being able to cry as much, it makes me feel like I'm like, damn, I wish I could cry right now, but it's not gonna happen. I'm Gibby and I'm a trans man. Before transitioning, I guess only presented as lesbian, but since transitioning, I've been able to be more comfortable with my sexuality. I've definitely seen on like dating apps and stuff a lot of conservative men fetishizing trans individuals, and it's interesting because a lot of the time they say that they don't identify as gay or within the community, and yet they're fetishizing my community.
Wow. So what's so interesting, right? Because I talk to trans women and trans men. Now, what's so interesting for this person as a trans man to say that, now we can see where he's not lying about that, because I've seen guys that are heterosexual and gay too now, that are gay men, that cisgendered, that are fetishizing trans people as well. And the same thing is to be said even with trans women. It's more that the people who publicly declare, who make the choice to live a straight lifestyle, because I'm not going to go into their sexuality,
right?
You know what I'm saying? It's in this, well, I am going to the sexuality, but I'm not going to label it as just one thing, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So these people who live a straight orientation, right? These are the ones that I have seen from my own experience that are more interested sexually than trans people. There are not mostly gay or lesbian cisgender people that, not to say that it doesn't happen, but the overwhelming majority of trans men and women people are heterosexual men. And those are the pursuers. Those are the people who live the straight construct. Because like I said earlier, a person who might engage in homosexuality or heterosexuality or transsexuality. I think I made some shit up just now. Right? That doesn't mean that they're opposite gender loving or opposite gender loving or transgender loving or opposite sex loving or same sex loving or trans sex loving. See?
In the same comment, I would add, most of these I guess I don't want to label people, but I will. There's a lot of these Bible thumpers and a lot of these conservatives that they'll be at the front of the line at the protest, but behind closed doors, it may be a whole different ballgame.
All the conservative men of every race that I've had conversations with and sexual relationships with, without, of course, I didn't meet them through their families and all of that stuff. We met individually, so I'm not in that. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there are times through my experiences, yes, that's true. But then there are some, and I'm not saying this to the majority of them do exactly what you're saying, and it makes it hard for the men who do have to oppress, because they might want to get it on with me or a trans person sexually and enjoy the conversation and the company. That does not mean that they are fully engaged in a homo-emotional relationship. Doesn't mean that they don't care or have feelings in the sense of a respect through energy. And I wish more men and women could exchange that energy as well.
And really, like me and you go to prove that point all the way home. You know, we've known each other for a long time. We were roommates at one point. You know, there was never a situation where I gave you a hard time about your sexuality.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
You weren't.
You know what I'm saying?
You didn't diminish my human and like, okay, if I come out, like, it wasn't no weird shit like, oh my God, if I'm in my underwear, that's weird because you know that I'm gay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm homosexual. Like, that's like, yeah, like people get very fucking ridiculous with their ideals when it's like, well, no, it's anatomy. You know, even with the respect that, because if you told me, look, my wife is uncomfortable with that, please not do that on behalf of my wife, you understand I would have respected that.
Right.
But because your wife is also comfortable with my anatomy and my sexuality, that was never that issue.
I'm comfortable with you. Just walked in and I heard your wife's comfortable. I'm like, I'm comfortable.
Exactly. And see, because people, you see, there was a connection through our human nature. There's a connection there, and people don't understand. Like, even with you and I, yes, I'm a black gay man. You are a biracial Hispanic woman. We have an opposite gender loving relationship. That's not, we have an opposite sex.
And I still love you. I'm going to go put all these bags down.
Yes, I love you too, baby. Yeah, we have an and I can say this with your husband on the phone with me on live because he understands that context. I love you as the person for your gender and who you are, and I see all that part of you. You know what I'm saying? And we relate based off of that as well. I don't be like, oh, you're just Joseph's wife. No, you are. You know, you're why I don't want to say her name. I don't know if you say her name. Right. You know what I'm saying?
But it's humanizing. You know, it's not. Oh, you're just this.
We're not sexualizing fucking. We're not sexualizing each other.
Exactly. Right.
We're not sexualizing. We're not looking at each other through the guise of fucking sexuality. Sex, anatomy, yes, duh. But just because you we're not blind or not recognizing that there's a difference of sexual orientation either. All of these things could be possible, and there's literally no practice of sexuality going on between people.
Right, and you know, again, to you know, knock it out the park. You know, we play music together, and I may leave and my wife may stay here. There's no fear if I leave and go play music.
Exactly. Well, hold on, we're almost done with this video.
Ready.
So I don't know about you guys, but I always speak my mind. If I feel a certain way, I'll tell somebody, and that probably cost me a lot of relationships. But that's just how I am. So
I don't think there's anything wrong with. I know we talked about vulnerability, you know, a long time ago. I don't think there's anything wrong with being vulnerable. I think, like we said, there's times and places for it. Knowing when it's okay to be vulnerable and being self-aware of that, and then, you know, being
battery low.
And being sad.
Power
on.
on.
Appropriate, but I certainly am not as vulnerable or not as emotional as probably I should, because it's not something that I always did growing up. But I don't feel like I have, you know, issues like suppressing. I just feel like I kind of get it out in other ways.
And see, at least what I appreciate about what he said, I gotta put my Bluetooth speaker out, is that at least he was honest in the sense of, you know, yeah, I think it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to compartmentalize that within certain moments. And you're right. That is absolutely something that males have to do. I have been in that position with men, women, and children to have to compartmentalize that emotion.
And I've been practicing it for the past 2 years or so. You know, not only just by making this podcast, but you know, I notice, you know, if I'm you know, we've been working from home for the past 2 years, 3 years, you know. So, you know, after about a couple weeks or two, I gotta get outside. I gotta run around. I gotta get out some energy. Like, I can't just sit at home and just do nothing. It doesn't work, because then it becomes toxic. Then I become angry and, you know, real short tempered, things like that. Like, I have to say, yeah, as a man, you have to find those other ways, those other outlets to, you know, to you not only compartmentalize things, but really to process in general. You know, we're not, because, you know, men aren't gonna, we're not gonna respond to drama the same way a woman would. You know, like maybe it's easier for women to talk it out. You know, they want to talk out what drama happened. For men, if it's drama, but like drama between men, guess what? You ain't gonna hear shit. It's like either something's gonna happen, or someone's gonna work out really, really hard, and they're gonna come back so tired they don't care anymore. You know, so it's just, yeah, again, finding those ways and those outlets. And I really hope and wish people do more of that. You know, we need to have men get to that point of, okay, hold on, I know I'm noticing I'm angry a lot. I'm noticing I'm not really dealing with my emotions. Maybe I should try this. Or, hey, let me go just take a fucking walk. Like, I mean, we just don't do enough physically anymore. We really don't.
Yeah, and for the ones better to do that than to take it out on the people that you're supposed to care for and protect, and that loves and care for you.
And it goes both ways, you know. And there's
yes, it does.
There's such thing as the gym freak as well. The person that never addresses life and stays working out in the gym. Probably not beneficial. So there is a balance that has to be had too.
Or having sex, or doing drugs, or overeating.
All the above. 100%. Those are all, you know, coping mechanisms. A lot of them aren't healthy. And even the ones that could look healthy, that's not healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially, and I'm not trying to bash workout freaks, you know, but there are there's such a thing.
Yeah, there's such a thing.
Self-aware of that. And then,
so I don't know about you guys, but I always speak my mind. If I feel a certain way, I'll tell somebody, and that
being strong when you need to, and being sad, you know, when it's appropriate. But I certainly am not as vulnerable or not as emotional as probably I should, because it's not something that I always did growing up. But I don't feel like I have any real issues like suppressing. I just feel like I kind of get it out in other ways.
Yeah, that's where you look at it like that, because I believe for me, like my personal experiences, like, because I was to transition at a very young age, and my dad being in the military, being a veteran, he would see me being vulnerable at times, and he'd be like, well, don't you want to be a man? And that would make me feel like, oh, am I not supposed to be vulnerable anymore? Now that I'm like,
he's trying to be manipulative, even though he might not agree. But even so, he's like, well, if you're going to do this, I want you to do it the way that I want you to do it, and I want you to have the toxic masculinity.
Right, exactly. And I'm going to force that male aggressive, you know, that I'm going to give you that. You have to have that aggro, you know, and not everyone,
that archetype.
Not everyone wants that. And when it's bad timing, just like what they're saying, it doesn't go off well, because now it's like, what? Well, you know, on one hand, I'm trying to be normal, and then now you're telling me to do what? You know, like it's not not conducive to a well-established environment, you know.
No, yeah, exactly.
And it was just like very hard for me, because like I said earlier, it was hard for me to have that father figure at that time of my life.
You know, my process of, you know, digesting emotions is by myself, and I use that time to self-reflect. So if I'm feeling angry, or if I'm, you know, feeling really passionate about something, or whatever the emotion is, sometimes I pull back and I don't show that emotion, because I'm reflecting on it and trying to understand why it's there. So I think a lot of times people can think men aren't showing enough emotion, but in reality, they're just self-assessing why that emotion is there in order to see what it's trying to teach us.
Right. I think for when I was female, I was much more angry. I was just reactive, angry, like, Argh. And then as I became a man, I cry more now as a man than I ever did as a woman. And I think it's because I'm at peace with myself. And so before, I was just so angry about being a woman and everyone calling me she, and seeing a girl, and I just be, as a fashion model. So that really just took it to a whole other level. And then once I became a man, it was like, whoa, I can actually relax. And I think I do the same thing. I self-reflect on myself. I want to be this type of man that is more vulnerable and that is more accessing my own emotions.
Thank you, everyone.
Right on. Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah. So shout out to Jubilee's channel. I put the we're gonna have more conversation. I'm just putting it out there. I've left the link of the video in the description box. I mean, yeah, like what do you have to say so far? New wrinkle on the brain.
All in all, good. All in all, good. More dialogue like this needs to happen. This shouldn't. I hope this isn't a one-off.
No, it's not. It won't be.
Looking at their channel, Jubilee has a lot of sit downs like this, so it's good that this is happening somewhere. But it definitely should be. It should happen more.
And I saw a response video on a black heterosexual man who had an opposing views of anything trans. When I first saw the video, and I was like, wait a minute. I said, okay, well, that's his opinion. I was just like, you know what? Let me go ahead. And, I can't get mad at his opinion or anything, on which I wasn't tripping. But I was just like, you know what? Since I have the context of so many conversations of patriarchy and masculinity and gender roles, what I'm saying? I thought, what a great topic, what a great conversation to review and react and respond to and have conversation over as people go along and listen.
Oh, for sure. And this is something that more people should join in on. And even if it's just listening, or if we can get more people on the panel in the future or something, I want to look at 2023 and we can do something bigger for sure.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm like, wow. I mean, but here's the thing. Honestly, y'all, I have these type of conversations, me and my friend New Wrinkle on the Brain. People tell me all the time, it's like, man, you should be recording the conversation, because me and this brother will have this conversation like this for hours and nothing will be recorded.
I know.
Nothing will be live.
We've missed so much content.
Yeah, it's so much content. And I have these, because I noticed from my niche on being on these YouTube streams, I love hopping on panels. I love having a conversation and hearing the conversation among a topic and stuff like that. So, I'm just going to, have to work and invest in some other software and stuff like that so I can show you the screen. And also, there are other people that, I want to have the conversation. I want people to be able to hit the link and let's talk about it.
Right.
Even if it's opposing in different views. So, I mean, and this is so great that today that, we were able to have this conversation even with the opposing views. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a middle. There was indeed a middle ground there that's met and stuff like that. And the reason, and even with us having different experiences and at times, different maybe political ideologies, not exactly the same, but there is still some compromise there, and not really compromise, but there's an authentic concern that both of us can agree on.
Right. And that's what makes it special. Yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime you're on next time, let me know and I'll join for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody, look, I appreciate you. Hold on. I think I got something from my. Something. Okay. So yes, everybody, everybody, if you're listening, please respond in the comment. What do you think? What do you think about the conversation? What are your opinions on even some of our commentary? You know what I'm saying? So, do me a favor. What I'm gonna do before I'm gonna drop you off the panel, because that's the private chat. Everyone can't see that. So what I'm gonna do is drop you off the panel. Any final thoughts, New Wrinkle on the Brain?
I think we nailed it. This was awesome.
Hell yeah. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is drop you off the panel, but I want you to go in the comment section and put your information. Give people a quick synopsis of what do your podcast and what is your content about, just in case people are listening and not looking at the chat box.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so A New Wrinkle on the Brain was kind of something that I've always been doing, but I wanted to give it out. It was always this wrinkle in my mind. I would sit there thinking and maybe put some dots together or go on deep dives on my own, watching videos and, let it be conspiracy theories, ancient history, UFOs, whatever. I would watch it. I would watch literally what everyone doesn't watch. So, just to kind of drive the point home, I still have not watched any John Wick movies. It's not on purpose. It's actually on accident. I wanted to watch them. I've been going on them rabbit holes, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's been something that it's not that it's taken a ton of my time, but it made it more concise. So instead of just drifting off into nowhere on my own, now I have somewhere where I can present information. So I wanted to make this podcast to where I could say, hey, look, come to a new Wrinkle on the Brain. I got something you've never seen before. Let me show you this thing you've never seen before. So that's really, it's almost like a little bit of a touch on everything. I even I did a wrap up video recently where I was looking at the past year of maybe 27 episodes I did this year. And out of 27, I mean, they were huge topics, and a lot of them got great responses. I might be working more with some other podcasters as well. I've been doing some work with information from Billy Carson, and Billy Carson is a black gentleman who got some information I've never heard. So I've been just eating it up. It's been awesome, and his data is definitely it's verifiable. This isn't someone just sitting there talking woo woo. Like, nah, he's actually going to Egypt and getting into places most Egyptian scholars don't get to. So, we do the whole Egyptian history breakdown. We have a kind of a recurring episode for UFOs. We got an Antarctic video, history of the CIA. Like it's a little bit of everything, but the best part is it's something that you've probably never heard of. So definitely check it out.
Definitely. Well, with that being said, y'all, this is IG Green 85 on YouTube. I'm definitely going to be coming at you. I'm going to drop you down off the panel. And what I want you to do, go in the chat and put your information.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll do that. Got you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Let's see. Okay, hold on. So y'all, I'm gonna just wait y'all to let a new Wrinkle on the Brain podcast to put his information in the chat. Y'all go subscribe, check out his podcast, check out what the brother is doing. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping that y'all can. This will start the conversation. Listen to this and with people that you think you can have this conversation with, or maybe even not, to your discretion, right? Have this conversation with people that you think that'll agree with you and disagree with you. You don't want the echo chamber effect, right? So, this is something, the type of content I'm definitely going to be having more conversational type topics on this channel. You know what I'm saying? Putting it out there. I'm gonna go ahead and stop being, since this is something I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop being cheap so I can go ahead and stream on YouTube as well, where I have following it as well, so we can get more people on here to have the conversation and hit the link. You know what I'm saying? So just waiting for my brother here, just to post his information. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go ahead and just probably end the live. I'm just waiting for you to do it. So let me see. It's not away from me though. See, because I see it. Spotify link, copy link. Because you know what? I could do it. I'm tripping. Hold on. I'm new to messing with this shit. Let me see something right, y'all. Post a comment. Right there. Copy, paste. That's his Spotify information. That's his Spotify link. Hold on. My bad. I could do it. I could do it this whole time. Apple Podcast. Hold on. No, hold on. I want to copy it. I don't want to. Hold on. It's tripping. It's making me. Have you put in your Apple Podcast? Let me see here. Let's see. Bam. Because when I try to click on the link to copy it, it's taking me straight there. Yeah, send me the go ahead and send the link for your Apple podcast, because that's the one that for some reason when I try to hold it down and copy the link, it sends me straight to the page. Oh damn, 4 hours. But this how these conversations really goes. Like even when I'm everyday life with people that's close to me and that I meet, this is how these conversations go. If time permit, when I'm not actually at physical work. You said you posted in the chat? You already posted in the chat. Gotcha. All right, y'all. Well, so this is good night. I'm definitely gonna be back at y'all. Y'all have a good day or evening or whatever time it is.